Hello. Hello. Uh, we are doing a reaction. We're gonna play a game while we do it. Hello. And also, later I'm gonna give my thoughts on a peace conference. Isn't that exciting? A bit? A bit exciting? Wait, hold on. You might not be able to hear me quite yet. Can you hear me? Okay, let's start with this little debate. That's right. I'm here for you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how old are you?
10.
I'm 30.
I'm 10.
All right, cool. And what do you lose by
How old are
calling
you?
trans
Am
women?
I
I'm 10 and plus.
allowed to ask that?
What are you, a cop?
No, well, you asked me.
I asked because TikTok will ban my account if I have people under the age of 18 on my account.
Okay. So you're not going to answer it? I shouldn't ask again?
What are you, a cop?
No, I'm okay, whatever.
I think the
So-
better question to ask is, are you a narc?
Peace
All right,
conference.
then we're good.
These are just
Mesh
jokes.
conference, we're at the
Okay.
violence conference.
So
jokes.
got it.
True.
Yeah, I mean I don't necessarily have an issue with transgender women. It's transgender men that I'm like, okay, we're starting to lose the thread here.
Oh, transgender
I
men.
I don't
for
think
once.
women can really genuinely understand the struggles of men just because they got
Jesus.
some surgery to get it.
What
like
are the
genitals,
struggles of men?
For
Well,
once.
you're a
it's-
man? Are you a man?
For
Yeah,
once, it's
that's
the
why I'm
trans
asking
men
what
that
the
get
Yeah.
the
struggles of men
heat.
are.
Well, so I'm not gonna. Well, we don't have
Wow.
to talk about it, but we know what they are.
I don't.
What do you mean?
I don't know what the struggles of men are.
No.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's buffering.
No.
No idea.
I mean,
I mean,
you know, the rates
oh my gosh.
of unaliving ourselves, the wars we've had to fight, the drafts we have to get drafted into wars at young
Who-
ages
quick
if we
question.
qualify.
Quick question. Who starts those wars?
Older men.
Okay. So
That
I
aren't
wouldn't
me.
call that
Well, then.
a specific struggle of men
Well, why wouldn't you?
because
It
men
is,
are
though.
men are doing it.
Well, I'm not the men doing it. We're subjected
Why is this buffering
to-
happening? This is not fair. Life does not love me. I need some love in life. Hi, Lucy. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, it's all completed. The encroaching Anjanat. Hunt an Anjanat. We're gonna hunt an Anjanat. Trans women inclusionary radical trans mask misandry. True. Racist against trans men for once. Not against me.
the will of a lot of men that aren't us.
Yeah, I would claim that more a struggle of class than it is a struggle of gender.
No, it's a gender thing. I mean, women don't get drafted into wars.
Who made that rule?
It doesn't matter. I
Yes,
didn't.
wait, yes, it does. You're
But
making.
I
You're
didn't
not.
make
But
the
you're not
rule.
making an I claim. You're making an all claim. You can't make an all claim
Well,
when
it's-
the group.
no, well,
you're
it
making a
is-
claim
it's-
for the group, but the group is the one that made the rule. If you
But it
don't,
is
like,
true.
like what?
It's no less true, though. How again? It's important for me to know if you're draft age. I am
True.
not draft age. I would not go to war if there was a war and there was a draft.
Yes, you
You
would.
might.
Wait.
Do you understand the
30?
gravity of that?
Yes,
Hold on,
you
hold on, hold
would.
on.
What do you mean?
You're making a claim that there are
Wait.
issues that men face that
He said he was 30.
women
Yeah.
don't.
In
And
Ukraine, 40-year-old people fight in wars. What? Yeah, you would get drafted at 30, of course. Why wouldn't you? What do you mean? What do you think that only 18-year-old people get drafted or something? Too bad. Stay mad. You're gonna get drafted by me at the age of 69. Like the naughty position. 69. Which. Huh.
Those issues are the draft. However, men are the one who came up with the rules that they didn't want women to be drafted. So this
Right.
issue is not
But do
really
you
an
think that-
issue. More
But
of
I'm
it's a
talking
rule
to
that
you.
men put in place.
I am talking specifically to you. Do you think that argument is gonna work if there's a war and you get
50-year-olds
drafted
are
into it? Are
fighting.
you gonna
I
say
mean,
this isn't
that
fair?
is
I'm not
true.
gonna. I'm not
That
gonna
is
get
actually
drafted.
true.
You're not gonna go?
No.
50-year-olds
You're not gonna
are
have a
fighting
choice,
in some
my friend.
places.
Yeah, I will.
You're a man. You
That is
are a man.
unironically true.
The
Yes, I will have
government
a-
will
I will-
say
I
you
will
have to
have a
go fight
choice.
this war,
And they're
you
doing
may
well
die in that
as
war.
well.
That may
They're
be
not
the
just
end
fighting,
of your
they're
life
doing well.
fighting that war.
It's not gonna happen.
That's a little
Why
bit
would
of
that
a
not
like
happen?
I will put
It's
a bullet
happened
in my
before.
in my.
Have
foot
you heard
bef-
of Vietnam?
Wait, I will put a bullet in my foot before I fight a
I've been
useless
twice
war
to
for
Vietnam.
America.
Vietnam
But you
is the
would
loveliest
have to
place on
do
the planet
that.
Earth.
Do you not understand?
Vietnam is wonderful.
How-
So if your
I love
issue is
Vietnam.
with the
You- you
draft,
were- no, my issue
say
is
you
with
want
a
to remove
lot
the
of
draft.
things.
No,
No
but here's
better
the problem.
place.
Here's the
The draft
problem.
is only the
You are
tip of the
saying that
iceberg.
you're
That's
saying
a
that trans
theoretical.
men can't be men because what? They can't get drafted?
Well, they weren't born into that experience.
Okay,
They
so then
don't
what are
know-
we?
They were not born
Wait,
into a world.
I have not been
where they
drafted,
may
so
have to
I don't
die.
have that experience.
Nobody is born into the experience of being drafted, and there are countries. There were countries historically in which women were drafted. So, there you go. There's no such thing as being born into the experience of being drafted. Don't be silly.
Either.
Come on.
Right? The only time that
a
experience
lot
is
of
going to
men do.
matter
Come
is when
on.
you are drafted. When's the last time we had a draft?
Vietnam. That
So
wasn't
then,
that
no,
long
a
ago.
lot of men don't experience that right now.
That is true. Also, the buffering gets getting on my nerves. Why is the buffering?
You should
happening
go to a
so
bar
much
and you're-
today. Oh, I think I know. Wait. It's because I'm doing storyboarding and the program is probably taking a lot of memory or something. I don't know. Screen? Sorry. One moment. Apologies. I'm trying to get the buffering to a better place. Hold on. There we go.
Your town sometime and talk to the guys there that probably were. in
Wait, I'm not going to
Around
argue that a
lot
bunch of people
veterans.
didn't experience the draft, but I'm talking about right now they're not experiencing that. That's not a universal
They're not
experience
men.
all men have.
All
You're a
men
bit
are
naive
born into the draft. The
to
the
think that couldn't
buffering.
happen
If,
again,
God.
It's not happening again.
and that
Why-
you wouldn't be a part.
I hate this so much. I hate the buffering so much. It annoys me. It annoys me more than anything in the world. It annoys me more than climate change. And climate change is pretty annoying. Heffos is live. Oh my gosh. Back to the drama. 1.8 thousand viewers. Of course. Why am I even shocked by this? Why am I even shocked by this development?
Government will
I will-
say you
I will
have to
have a
go fight
choice.
this war, and you
No.
may die in that war. That may be the end of your life
No, I won't.
fighting that war.
It's not going to happen.
Why would that not happen?
I will put
It's
a bullet
happened
in my
before.
in my
Have
foot.
you heard
bef-
of Vietnam?
Wait, I will put a bullet in my foot before I fight a useless war for America.
But you would have to do that. Do you not understand
and?
how?
So if your issue is with the
you
draft,
were- no,
Do you think Ukraine will send people for the fighting age Ukrainians that fled to Europe? I don't think Ukraine has the means to sort of just. I'm not sure if Ukraine even has the means to just get people that are in Europe back and draft them. Besides, there are many people of drafting age in Ukraine proper, which is why there's a discussion about the drafting bill in Ukraine. Like there's not a shortage of draftable people in Ukraine that Ukraine has to think of how to bring people back from abroad. For example, the refugee that sort of lives at my place. When he came here, he was underage and became of age while living in Warsaw. You see? Pretty sure he was about 17 when he came here. And now it's like over 17, at least 18. You know? And I'm pretty sure there are stories like that when people came to Poland where they were 16, 17 and are turning 18. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for people that came to Poland as refugees. So what, they should just sort of
No, my issue
say
is
you
with
want
a
to remove
lot
the
of
draft.
things.
No, but here's the problem.
The
Here's the
draft is
problem.
only the
You're
tip of the
saying that
iceberg.
you're
That's
saying
a
that trans
theoretical.
men can't be men because what? They can't get drafted?
Well, they weren't born into that experience.
Okay,
They
so then
don't
what are
know-
we
They
talking-
were not born
Wait,
into a world.
I have not been
where they
drafted,
may
so
have to
I don't
die.
have that experience either. Right? The only time
Well,
that
maybe
experience
you're
is
not a
going to
man.
matter is when you are drafted. When's the last time we had a draft?
Have you considered that
Vietnam,
you
that
might
So
was
then,
not
no,
be
a
man?
lot of men don't experience that right now.
You should go to a bar in your town sometime and talk to the guys there that probably were. in
Wait,
it.
I'm not going to
I learned
argue that a
lot
bunch of people
veterans.
didn't experience the draft, but I'm talking about right now they're not experiencing
not
that.
a real
That's
man.
not a universal experience all men have.
True. Some
You're a
men
bit
are
naive
just
to
not
think
men.
that couldn't happen again,
It's not happening again.
and that you wouldn't be a part of it.
I would not.
Why do you think they would just let you not go to war? What's special about you?
I will shoot myself in the foot before
What's
I go fight
special
in a
about
war
him
for
is that
America.
he's not a man.
Sure, yeah,
Only
a lot
men
of people
go to
did stuff
war.
like that, but that's something that men had to choose to do, not women.
We also, what was the reason why we drafted in Vietnam? There's a reason why we did it.
Does the reason matter? They
Yes.
still did it
Why did we do it?
Did you know that
because
my
we were at war with Vietnam.
grandfather?
No, because
Because
we
it
had
was a
we had
proxy
my
war
father
between
said,
us
"We
and
really
communists.
wanted me
No,
to
it's
be a
because we
soldier."
had incredibly low enrollment numbers in the military. We don't have that right now.
You probably did.
There's
Okay.
literally
Yeah,
the
well, you know,
only reason. That was the only reason we had a
The
draft.
interesting thing about the military is when a soldier passes away on the battlefield, they need a new one. It's an interesting concept,
The
right?
fuck does that have to do
Human
with
life, and especially men's lives, are rather disposable.
What does this
in
have
that
to do
sense.
with anything?
Well, it has to do with.
You want to see a place where people's lives are disposable? Go to Russia and stop whining. U.S. citizen. And it's so funny for a U.S. citizen to complain about human lives being disposable when we're seeing what Russia does literally to its citizens, sending people to die by the thousands to meet military goals, to meet military objectives. And here we have a person whining about the experience of men that may or may not sometime, somewhere in the future, hypothetically, maybe be drafted, but probably not. Yes, going to war is like gender affirming care for trans men. And staying out of war is gender affirming care for trans women. Russian cannon fodder, yeah. Kvak kvak. It has to end in a K. Yeah. Look, it's a dinosaur. A cute little dinosaur. I love him. Damn, that's brutal. Ouch. Awooga! You're mad. Stay mad. perverts. It's okay, I've got good armor, so I can unpause the video or whatever. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of no ghosts.
The
Men
idea
aren't the
that a
only
woman
people on the
would be
battlefield
able
right
to
now. There
understand
are
what that
women
is.
soldiers.
True.
What does
Especially
this
in
have to do with
Ukraine.
anything? You keep going, well, women don't know what it'll be like to risk their lives for their country, but they do because there are women soldiers.
The buffering is getting on my nerves. I don't know what's happening today. I'm sorry, gigglers. I have failed you. As a streamer. As a woman.
There are women on the front lines.
In Ukraine. This is so annoying, I swear. I don't even know how to fix this. I don't even know what's the cause. This is the most annoying thing of all. Why does Polish internet have to suck so much? Is this stream even on? Can you even hear me? Can you even see me? Can you even experience my pain? And now it's... What the hell? Is the internet dead? Is the stream dead? This is so annoying. Oh, that's what I get for trusting Wikipedia. I should have asked a duck like Lucy.
Right now, men aren't the only people that understand what it's like to risk their lives.
Okay, if you say.
Oh my god, it's buffering every single word.
So,
You don't think they're women soldiers?
no, I don't. I think they're given much less, just
Money,
battlefield
that's right.
anything in
They're
those
Substantiate
cases.
that in any way.
I can't without being offensive.
Well, no, you can't because there is nothing to substantiate it with.
I'm not going to talk about what women do in the
Oh my...
military.
You have no way to substantiate this, so.
Oh
okay.
my god, this is so annoying. Yeah, of course.
You
Oh
have no way
yeah,
to substantiate
women,
this, so, okay.
women just sleep with men in the military. Is basically what this guy is alluding to. The only role for women in the military is to sleep with the men in the military. That's the only possible role a woman could hold in the military. To be a comfort woman or whatever. Your game is running smooth. Oh, that's good. That is lovely to see. At least you can enjoy the game, even if you cannot enjoy the debate. Even if you cannot enjoy your time with the debate, which is only 7 minutes long. But yeah, what this guy is trying to say is that a woman could only be a comfort girl or something in the military. And cook, yeah. A cook, connoisseur, a woman in the military, according to this guy, could only be a cook, connoisseur, and a cock connoisseur. There you go. I made a perfect clippable moment. I'm gonna kill this dinosaur. I'm gonna finish this dinosaur because I'm strong. And the dinosaur is weak. Weak as a dinosaur can be. I'm flaming. My butt is flaming. Oh my gosh, I'm actually in trouble. I died? But I drank! Oh, whatever. I'm angry now. How did I die?
I have friends in the military.
I don't give a fuck about your friends. That's not substantiating.
True.
Having
I have
friends isn't substantiating shit, bro. Are you joking? I have friends is your substantiation?
I have friends.
Please.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god. That's it? That's the whole debate? This is so annoying. I'm sorry for the buffering. I blame Poland, as always. Poland blocks the road on the border, and Poland blocks my internet, I'm sure. It's more annoying than anything. I've sent a message with a challenge to a debate. I wonder if I'll get a response. I wonder if I'm gonna get a response to my challenge. To a debate. But war is bad. It's okay. You're not a man if you're not at war.
Let's bring in the next person.
Who's the next person? Am I the next person? Am I the transphobe for today?
How old are you?
46.
Okay.
Oh my god, a
If
46
I'm
year old.
pretty sure in the comments you said that women have to give birth, correct?
They do. Or else
They don't have to give birth.
it's mandatory.
So then giving birth is not a necessary condition to be a woman?
It is.
No, not exactly.
Okay,
Yes,
what is not
exactly. If you don't give birth at least 10 times in your lifespan,
exactly?
your
A woman that
card gets revoked.
Can't give
forever.
birth doesn't make her a man. She's still a woman.
Okay, well, trans women can't give birth and they're still women.
Trans women can give birth.
No, I said trans women typically can't give birth, so they're still women, right? They would be the atypical. They would be women who can't give birth.
No, a trans woman is someone that was born male that identifies as a woman.
Yes, all gender is identity based. Yeah, that's how all gender works.
What now? What now, 34, 36-year-old man?
No, a woman is an adult female.
What's a female?
Sorry, what's a female?
Yeah, what are the necessary conditions to be female?
What's
Having a
the
penis.
description of a female?
Having a penis
What
is
is
a
the
necessary
necessary conditions?
condition
What are
of
the
being
things
a
that you
woman.
have to have in order, like that are required in order to be a female?
If you don't have a penis, you're
Well,
not
you
a
tell me.
woman.
What are they?
You're making the claim. Why would I tell
Oh, more buffering. How quaint. How lovely.
you? You're claiming that in order to be a woman, you must be female. So the necessary condition to be woman is to be female.
No.
And that now I need to know
Someone-
what a female is. This is your criteria, not mine.
Explain yourself.
Why do I have to give you
All the
criteria for
answers.
your claim?
A female is someone that is of or denoting whatever it is,
What?
right? Childbearing,
What does denoting mean?
indicating.
What does indicating mean?
Do you get this stupid at the age of 46? Thank God
I don't know the true definition.
Okay. Do people that denote this, are they people that can
have
do it, or
friends.
people that just
True.
resemble the people that can do it?
So if I'm denoting female qualities, does that make me a woman?
Maybe.
If I put on a wig and a dress and you see me from behind, you can't tell if
Well,
I'm a
no,
man
because
in
I would
reality.
I would disagree with that definition of female, unless there's a
well, you have to disagree with a lot of things to
okay.
make this work here. We have to. Why would we ignore what makes a woman a woman?
Well, because your claim is
Why
that
would-
woman is a biological thing. My claim is that woman is a
Yeah, and your
is
claim is a trans woman is a man. It's not.
What?
So
No, my claim is not.
how
that
how is a
women are
trans
men.
woman?
That's not my claim. My claim is that woman is not a biological term. Woman is a social category. It's a socially constructed thing. Therefore, because it's in a social category, it's
What are you,
easily
a
shiftable
socialist?
and movable.
So
I cannot
anything
believe
can be a woman then.
Socialists ruin everything.
Anything that meets the criteria of gender, like anything that's gender identity aligns with that, yes.
Social
Okay,
category.
that's not making much sense
What
here.
else?
Do you know
We're
what gender
gonna give
identity
out
is?
stuff for free.
Not really.
Okay, gender identity is a thing.
Buffering. Amazing. What happened to the dinosaur? It just dove. It just dove in the ground. Sheesh.
That
You know what
exists
a-
in our
you know
brain.
what a-
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Do
talking.
you know what a woman is? What's
Sorry.
a woman?
What is a woman? Said Matt Walsh.
A woman would be
S.
anyone whose gender identity aligns with their personal schema on female.
Personal schema. Such nice words. The dinosaur jumped me.
Can I
Is
finish
that-
explaining
that-
what gender identity is now?
You cannot. I forbid
Sure,
you.
go ahead.
No.
Right, so gender identity
No, you
is something
cannot.
that exists within our brain. Gender identity
What if you don't have a brain?
formulates
Checkmate.
in utero, like hormone
Hormone rot.
washes have an effect
Oh,
on
washes,
gender identity.
sorry.
Neuron development have an effect on gender identity.
Are you
Gender
cheating?
identity
I'm
is
not
just
cheating.
going to be your
What do you
subjective
mean?
perception of your sex and the way that that sex is oriented in your body.
I'm not cheating.
Okay, so what's the difference
I
between a
cheating?
man and a woman?
Men would have gender identities that align with the male sex. Women would have
What's
gender
the physical
identities that align with the
differences
female
between
sex.
a man and a woman?
There
What's
are
the
Oh my god, the buffering is gonna drive me crazy, isn't it? What is happening today? What is happening to the internet? Maybe you should, I don't know, donate for me to get a better internet. I don't see any other option.
physical-
There are no physical differences between men
There
and
are no
women.
physical differences.
You-
No,
YouTube
because
sucks.
they're genders. Gender doesn't have a physical.
Okay.
Gender has
Yeah.
behavioral and psychological.
You're
Gender
saying like
doesn't
the
have a
busted
physical.
armor.
Sex
throughout
has a
the
physical.
DLC.
That's why
I
we
mean, I
have the term
guess, yeah.
sex, and that's
That's
why
not
we've made the
cheating.
term.
What
I'm
is
just
the
using the tools available to me. Besides, I've done this content millions of times.
Between a man and a woman. If your father and your
Gender
mother are
identity.
standing
Plus,
side,
this busted armor
if your
will not
mother and
help
father
you
are
in
standing
the,
side by side, what is the
you know,
differences between
in
them?
the end game
Their gender
content.
identity and the behaviors that they associate within their society.
What
and
what is
culture.
their physical
Like,
differences?
not like the
There are
loot
no
you get from
physical
the
differences
monsters.
between men and women.
Well, that's a load of bullshit.
It's not.
That's a load of fucking bullshit.
It's not. I
This-
understand.
this is
I
really-
understand
this is
getting. I
wrong.
understand
This is
getting
really
aggressive
insulting
aggressive
people's
because.
intelligence.
Yeah, I
This is
understand
really
you want to get
insulting people's
aggressive because you
intelligence.
don't have a response.
I
to, like,
don't
what
want to get
say.
aggressive.
I get it.
I-
Well, you just did. So I understand.
You don't understand.
I
your-
understand
you
getting
don't understand
mad
your
because
delusion.
I understand
don't
getting mad
understand
because
your
you can't
delusion.
handle the conversation. I get
You
it.
can handle the
I get it.
difference
when
between
we
a
are
man and a
when
woman.
we are presented with new information.
You've
our
only just
brains
noticed,
get
Maha?
angry at that, and our brains retaliate. So what your brain is doing now is retaliating to new information. Unfortunately,
I do
there is no
retaliate to new information.
man gene. There is no woman gene. There's nothing in our genome that denotates being a man or being a woman. There are
Yes.
things that denotate being
Someone
male
born
or
female
I'm not. I'm not
becomes an
done.
adult
I'm not
woman.
done. I'm not
Someone
done.
born
I'm not
male
done. That's great. I'm
becomes
not
an
done.
adult
That's
Did you
great.
beat
I'm not done.
Iceborne?
It's
That
wonderful.
is
I'm
it.
not finished. Wonderful. I'm not finished.
No.
It
There's
doesn't
a-
matter if
that's
you finish
No,
or not.
amazing.
I
I'm not done.
started it on the
I don't
PlayStation.
need
but
to
I
listen
didn't
to
Wonderful.
do it.
I'm
you
not
are-
finished.
I don't care.
Amazing.
A man's
I'm
a
But I
man.
did
I'm
beat
still
the
talking.
base game.
Wonderful. I'm
Adora
still
is not a
talking.
woman.
Amazing.
Adora still
Adora
has
is not
Without
here. Don't talk
a
about
male
busted armor.
genitalia.
Adora is not here. Do
He's a
not
man.
talk about Adora. Thanks.
I don't care.
Adora is
That
not
it
here.
is
Do
what
not
it
talk
is.
about Adora. Thanks. So
I'm not sure if I
again,
even have
when we
Iceborne
look
on
at the
PC.
differences in sex development, we see biological characteristics different between males and females. That exists. Everyone knows this exists. There are no biological differences between men and women. All you are going to
Bullshit.
do are name
Bullshit.
biological differences between. So name me one.
Bullshit.
Your
What's the
father
biological
is
difference
standing
between
next to
between
your
men and women?
mother. Don't tell me that there is no
What are
difference between
what are
the two.
they? What are they?
One is born with certain chromosomes. One has
That's
a certain bone
sex.
structure.
That's genotypic
Muscle
sex.
mass.
That is genotypic sex.
Genitalia.
Open up a
DNA.
open up a biology book. You're describing genotypic sex. That is not
Go
gender.
dig up. Go dig up a man's grave and a
Bones,
woman's
bones are
grave.
genotypic sex. Thanks. That would our bones
Yeah.
would be phenotypic sex. Thanks.
Man
You're not
and
naming
woman.
gender.
There
You're
are
naming
differences
sex.
between men and
You're
women.
not naming gender. You're naming sex because you
Why do
know
you-
Weapon type.
because they're
I
different
really like
words,
the
my guy. We have
glaive
different
with
words
the
for a reason. They are different
bugs.
words with different
And
definitions.
also like the
Just because you don't
dagger.
know
Yeah,
the
and there are
differences in the
differences
definitions
between those
doesn't mean
there,
anything.
there are differences between
and the bow.
those
I really like the bow
people.
as well.
Yeah, what's the difference between a female and a woman?
One is an adult and one is
What?
not.
So females aren't
What?
adults? There's no adult females?
But according to the description,
Excuse
no.
me?
A
So there are no
female
adult
is
females.
an adult woman.
There are no.
A
There are no.
female
Wait,
is an adult
that's not what
woman.
I asked. I asked what is the difference between a female and a woman. I'll ask. Like
And I asked-
this doesn't make any sense. Your claim is now. You're claiming
I
now
asked you
one is
the
an
difference
adult and one
between-
is
the
not.
physical differences
Females can
between
be
a man and a
adults.
woman. You say there are none.
There are no
mean,
biological
how
physical
dumb is that?
representations of being men and being women. There are social ones and there are behavioral ones that we are ingrained upon, but that's
yeah,
it.
but there are physical differences between a man and a woman.
Such as
What do you mean, such as? Open up a biology book.
I
and
have. I can read you directly out of a neuroscience textbook.
Why
You want me to
can't I
read you
upgrade?
directly out of a
look.
neuroscience
Oh,
textbook?
and they're going to say there's no.
Do you want me to read you directly out of a neuroscience textbook? Do you want me to read you directly out of a neuroscience textbook? Yes or no?
Physical differences.
Would you like me to read you directly out of a
No.
neuroscience textbook? Yeah, because you don't actually
no.
want to know the biology of it. You don't, because the minute you go open up a biology book and I go, okay, cool, I'll pull you up a
can't I
neurological textbook right now. That'll
Are
that'll walk it through.
genitalia biological?
Yes, genitalia are biological.
Okay, and you're saying there's no genitalia differences
Genitalia is
between a man
not
and a woman?
genitalia is not
there we go.
denotated by
There
being
we
a
go.
woman. It's
Again.
denotated by
Wow.
being male or female.
How much money do you make off of this? I hope the grift is worth it.
Enough to pay my bills.
I don't understand how you can come
This
and
is my
embarrass
full-time
yourself
job.
day after day.
You don't know the
live.
difference between sex and gender, and yet I'm embarrassed.
You don't know the difference between a man and a woman.
You
What are
don't
gonna-
know
what
the
are you gonna
difference
teach me?
between sex and
What are
gender.
you gonna
and yet
teach me?
I am
Difficult, yeah.
embarrassing myself, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay.
Deeply.
Well, do you want me to read you out of a biology book or not?
No.
No.
I
okay,
want you
so-
to admit
so when
there are
you-
differences between
Wait,
a man and a
you
woman.
said that
You
the
saying-
differences
you
would be in a
said there's no
biology book.
differences between a
You
man and
said
a
the
woman.
differences would be in a
You say that
biology
if your
book.
mother
I
and
have a
father
biology
standing
book
next
pulled
to
in
each
front of
other,
me.
they're the
I have
same
a
thing.
biology
That's what
pulled up
you're
in front.
saying.
No, it's not. I said the differences are behavioral and cultural, and some psychological. Those are the differences.
And
the
there's
differences
there are no physical differences.
the physical differences would be related to your sex, not your gender.
No, we're not talking.
The physical differences would be related to sex, not gender.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No,
Really?
the differences are real.
You think no?
Reality.
The differences are because of your sex, not because of your gender. Please, it's so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me that like I can provide you evidence for this shit, and
How
you
many
still are
genders
like,
are
no,
there? Is transgender a gender?
no,
What?
transgender is not a gender.
What the hell?
That
What
would
is
be
it?
Stupid to say.
Oh, it's not a gender. How many
46.
genders are there?
I would say gender is on a spectrum.
How many
So who
genders
knows?
are there?
I just said it's a
Oh,
spectrum. So
infinite
why the fuck?
amount.
Do you know what a spectrum is?
It doesn't make it
Do
makes
you know
absolutely
what
no
a
sense.
spectrum is?
No.
What?
You don't know what a
What do you
spectrum is, then you need to
Oh
go back.
my
What do you lose by
God.
calling trans women women? I don't lose anything. It's insulting my intelligence. But women lose.
I think what's insulting your intelligence is
Women
the fact
lose
that you
their
don't know the
identity.
difference between gender and sex.
and you
Or
you
that you
can't-
don't know what
can't-
a spectrum
You sit
is.
here and tell me there's no difference between a man and a woman? No physical
Never
differences?
said there wasn't a difference between a man and a woman.
Yes, you did.
No, I
You
didn't.
said there was no difference.
To
No,
not
I
know
said
what
the
a
differences are
spectrum
bi- are,
is.
No, you
I
did.
weep.
No,
Don't
I
know
didn't.
the
I
level
said
of
that
your
I said there are no
education.
biological differences.
I just weep.
There are no biological. Is a penis biological? Is a vagina
Penises
biological?
are denotating sex, not
They're
gender.
not biological. They are.
You keep going around in circles
Nice,
because you don't
though.
have an
I-
you don't have a retort.
we're not-
Do me a
we're-
favor. Do me a
we're-
favor. Do me a favor. Define sex for me and define gender for me right now. Let's see if you can do it. I don't think you can.
I
do
can
me-
Define
okay,
sex
you
and
do me-
gender.
you do
Nope.
me-
I asked
you
you a
do me
question.
a
You answer
favor.
the question or you go somewhere
You
else.
do me a favor.
5,
Get
4,
you do me a favor.
3,
you go and get Adora pregnant
2,
for me. Why don't you
1.
try that?
There you go. You couldn't answer the question, so bye. I don't talk to people that can't answer questions. See you. Next time you're gonna come here, open up a fucking book. Open up any book, please. God, open up a book. He got a crush on the door, I swear to God.
A crash on your door?
So, I'll read you guys directly out of a neuroscience textbook. So this is
Okay, read it
Neuroscience
to
second
me.
edition. Roughly speaking, sex can be considered in terms of three categories: genotypic sex, phenotypic sex, and gender. Genotypic sex refers specifically to an individual's two sex chromosomes. Most people have either two X chromosomes, genotypical female, or an X and Y chromosome, genotypical male. Phenotypic sex refers to an individual's sex as determined by their internal and external genitalia,
Individual
expressionary or
sex.
secondary sex characteristics, and behavior. If everything proceeds according to plan during development, the XX genotype leads to a person with ovaries, oviducts, uterus, cervix, clitoris, labia, and vagina, i.e. a phenotypic female. By the same token, the XY genotype leads to a person with testicles, epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, penis, and scrotum, a phenotypical male. Gender refers broadly to an individual's subjective perception of their sex and their sexual orientation. It is therefore harder to define than genotypic and phenotypic sex. Generally speaking, gender identity entails self-appraisal according to the traits most often associated with one sex or the other, called gender traits, and these can be influenced by cultural norms.
True. You should learn
Sexual
how
orientation
to defend
also
me.
entails self-appraisal in the
Defend
context
me,
of
fake
culture.
Alec
For
Cole Parker,
purposes of
please.
understanding the neurobiology
Defend
of
me.
sex, it is helpful to think of genotypic
I
sex
wanna
as largely
take my
immutable,
hormones
phenotypic
now.
sex as modifiable, such as development processes, hormone treatment, and or surgery, and gender as a more complex construct that is determined culturally as well.
Damn.
Thanks.
That is wise. I believe it. Makes sense to me.
Thanks. That's a neurobiology textbook, by the way.
Nerd. Reading from books. Don't you have friends?
See how easy that is? See how easy it is? See that? See how easy that was?
That's not easy when you don't know what a spectrum is. No. So, there are certain hurdles that you need to overcome. Like knowing how to read or other stuff. What is this?
Heterosexual.
Oh, okay, one more, I guess. One more for the road. Okay, let's go. I hope the buffering will be not as bad. Let's go. I guess.
Hi, how old are you?
Oh, I ask for no buffering and then it's like the worst buffering in the universe. Thank you. Thank you so much, universe and internet. I'm taking my hormones. I don't care. I'm taking the hormones. You cannot stop me.
Hi, how old are you?
10. I'm 10. I'm counting.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How old are you?
I'm 10.
40.
All right, cool.
Oh my god,
Born
another.
trans woman, woman?
Another one. 49.
Necessarily. Well, I've been in many lives. I've been hated on. I've been liked. So my thing is, I'll answer this question and then I'll ask you a question.
Damn.
Because why don't the majority of the world think like this?
What?
Why don't the majority of the world
Can you
think like
answer?
what?
Well, answer. You were supposed to answer first.
By calling them just a woman and not a trans woman.
Why does it matter what the rest of the world thinks?
Exactly. What
Usually
matters is
because they're right.
Who's right?
she's the means of hormone production. Yes, thank you.
Opposition.
Opposition to what?
I'm sorry, you didn't answer the question, which is what do you lose by calling trans women women? You just said, well, why doesn't the rest of the world think like this? That doesn't answer the question.
True.
The rest of the world could be wrong, just like most people that I talk to are.
Well, I know that it's basically defined by using the word denoted.
Oh,
do
another
you
one.
really
Denoted.
think that having to use the word denoted is necessary just to get the point across of
Having to use the word denoted in what?
What?
What
they,
context?
they use denoting as the definition of being female.
Who is they?
I am they.
Majority of the casters on here,
Majority of
trans,
what?
the casters,
What's a caster?
someone like yourself on TikTok.
Oh, okay. Well, the majority of TikTok posts use it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, what is... I don't understand the relevance, though.
Well, when I say that I was born a boy and male on the
You're
birth
born a
certificate,
boy.
I don't have to use the word denoting
What?
to let
Yeah,
the
because the
world.
birth certificate isn't asking you for a definition.
So, from what I understand, is it's formed in the brain, and the gender
have a
is
brain.
basically determined between ages 3 and 7.
I have a brain.
Yes, that would be the way that our bodies develop gender identities, yeah.
Okay, so no parent will know that their kid is heterosexual at age 1 or 2, right?
What does being heterosexual have to do with anything?
True. What that's
Well, I mean, that's basically
nobody's heterosexual.
what it's
by the
been
way.
based on, right?
The heterosexuality
No,
is
being
fake.
trans has nothing to do with being gay or straight.
But you generally understand what I'm trying to say.
No, I genuinely don't. That's why I'm asking follow-up questions. I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about.
It's normal to say, "Hey, I have a boy," or like using a gender reveal party, or a
Yes,
shower.
that would be us prescribing gender onto something. Yeah, that has not expressed gender
And
gender
that
expression
really
yet.
that pisses off the transgender community, right?
I've not seen a
What-
trans person mad that gender reveal parties are a thing, so I wouldn't know.
Pretty much a lot of them are.
I've never.
I'm
Adore-
always mad. True. I'm always
Adora
mad
is
about
one of
the
them.
gender.
Well, okay, so I'm not going to talk about people that aren't here, but I've never once seen Adora say anything about
Who's
gender reveal
Adora?
parties.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
it was
She-Ra
a whole. It was a whole shit show, is what it was, basically.
Okay, I feel like my question still hasn't been answered.
Oh, because
Who's
basically
Adora?
they changed their body.
Oh.
No, what do you lose by calling trans women women? You haven't told me what you lose.
Caster. A caster is someone that casts magic.
The
in
fact that they
an
weren't
RPG
born that
game,
way.
as opposed to a tank or
No
a
one's born a
melee.
woman, so what does that matter?
You're welcome.
I just answered your question.
Wait, but you said it's because they were born that way, but no one, there's never been a person who's been born as a woman.
I am super angry at that.
So, how can you lose that they've been born that way if nobody?
Gender reveal party is not really a thing in Poland, though. So whatever. It's not a
So
thing
you're
in
talking about
Poland.
18 plus.
Gender reveal party.
Huh? Yes, that would be what women are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is such an awkward conversation that's going nowhere. By the way, just saying. Why do you even call in if you don't have anything to say? Just awkwardly sigh. True. A class in
I don't know. I pretty much
Why even call
think
in if you're just
that
gonna be awkward like this?
it's twisted and basically
All of it is so twisted.
it's
Twisted metal.
it's not
Twisted metal.
it's not mutual understanding of
Oh.
what the world is used to.
Sorry. What do you mean? What does it matter if the world's not used to it? What does that matter? The world wasn't used to iPhones, and we now have iPhones.
iPhones are not real.
What was that last part?
The world
iPhones are
wasn't
not
used to
real.
iPhones, and now we have iPhones. What does it matter what people are used to?
Well, that's different. Then we're talking
Our
about human
phones are
beings.
the
No, we're just saying that this is
tools of
something that the
Satan.
world is not used to. So no, it's not that different.
Well, it's been this structure
Nobody likes iPhones.
for
They're
a
expensive.
long time, and
They're
it's like you guys want
Right.
a transgender want to change it.
Yeah, so this would be what we in the debate biz call an appeal to tradition, where you're saying
Yeah.
because something has always been this way, it must always
True,
be
it
this
has.
way, but without giving a reason why
True.
it must always be this way.
Echo.
Yeah,
You're also,
pretty much.
You're also echoing.
Echo. You dummy.
Because I don't necessarily see bisexuals, gays, lesbians
You don't see them. They're invisible
Like-
to you.
ever trying to force this part. It's only transgender community,
True.
and it's
only
like
the evil
1.4% of the world, right, or something like that.
transgender. 44% of the world
That
are
was really
transgender.
bad, so I'm just gonna move on. What the fuck?
I think they're extremely tacky when they see the surrounding area on fire. Just saying. We stopped it because of the echo. What do I do now? There's a cannon here. Wonder if there's been any more interesting debate. Good ending. True, getting rid of the echo is always a good ending. I can see how many balls there are here. Cannon balls. Interesting. Let's grab my transport. How do I grab my transport? How? What? What am I supposed to do? Hold on, I'm gonna... Oh, it's gonna show me. Whatever. Hey, let's just watch a debate. One more debate and then we're done. We're binging this person.
No. What do you lose?
Sandra Hall is streaming.
Hi, how old are you?
Sandra Hall has lost a lot of audience.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm 10.
Good. How old are you?
40.
Oh,
Calling trans woman woman.
we've already seen this. Never mind. For this, nothing more. Oh, even 2 pro-lifers. Okay, enough of trans. Now we're discussing abortion, the better topic.
It's very
James,
weird.
I have people I see people in the comments that are saying that they're like rioting. They want Javon. I don't know who that is.
I mean, if you want to do another guess, I'm all for it. The thing is, Felipe's and a lot of these people aren't
I don't know
Some
what
of them
to
have
think
been in
of
here
it
before,
because I
but
don't
I do
follow it.
debate people that
That's
you know
why
are
you don't have
intelligent and
viewers,
on different
because I don't
topics,
follow
and
drama.
I always get the same
I
comment.
only
You're
do
running from
boring
somebody,
things
and then I
like
debate them,
history,
and
books and
you know. So we'll,
yeah.
if you want to talk to
I'm
him,
a
I'm
boring
more than
What's
happy to bring him on.
Javon's? Is his whole thing consciousness?
I have no idea. I've never seen him.
I'd love to hear. I know you have to go, but we got Javon. Hello there.
Hello, gentlemen.
Javon, you did say in the
Gentlemen.
comments that gentlemen do not run, and
Yeah,
so,
no, don't run. I don't
So
like.
I wanna
we
run.
are so happy you're joining.
Wonderful. I didn't get
I
a
don't actually
clear
have an
explanation,
opinion
so I was just
on
wondering, like, why
thing.
specifically you guys think abortion is wrong.
I
Like,
know
what's
that
the underlying
Heche
reason?
doesn't like Vaush anymore. And Keffels.
Felipe, would you like to go first, or would you like me?
Heche drama.
I can go.
See?
For me,
Because
James
Heche
and I agree
drama.
a lot, but I'll let you also do your pitch. But for me, I used to be pro-choice, so this is an issue that is like very fundamental in my understanding of the world, and I think that.
What do you
again,
think of the whole
as someone going
Heche
into the
drama?
healthcare profession, I believe that all patients are valuable, and I believe in science. So from the moment of conception, right, there is overwhelming consensus that human life begins at the point of conception. So that's the objective reality, right? Now, my view is based on the fact that human beings deserve human rights.
Human beings.
And I don't think that innocent human beings should be unalived. And again, I think that the most fundamental right that we
Ridiculous,
have
by
as
the
human
way.
beings is the right to life, the right to
Because
exist.
when life begins is not the same as
Yeah,
when
my pitch is.
consciousness begins.
I agree
or
with
something.
Felipe. My pitch is basically we should not be unaliving children.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start with just
Brave.
sort of the beginning there. I believe in science thing. I think science
I don't know
absolutely
about
shows
them.
that
Okay.
human lives begin at conception. I have no issues with that. I don't think that tells us anything about morality. I think that tells us quite literally zero about morality. So to me, that really doesn't inform anything. It just informs like, oh, hey, this is now a human.
Well, it informs us
Heche
that
drama.
Right.
it doesn't
I would
necessarily-
disagree.
Science. Wait, hold on. I just want to make sure because maybe you'll accept this. Science doesn't say, this is right and wrong necessarily, but we utilize all of the sciences, including the hard science, in order to come to a moral
beings.
result.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Okay,
Some
good.
people do. Sure. If we want to
Ideally.
go down that
A zombie
that route.
Pokemon. A zombie mon.
You said that all humans deserve human rights. All humans are valuable. I just want to know why.
By virtue of being a member of the human species,
Yes, that is a.
people have
Yep, that would.
needed rights. And
Sure, that would just be a
To- to-
circle.
right, to answer your book, okay, hold on. You have to let me finish. To answer your
I will
question more
not let
directly,
you finish.
I believe
How
that
naive.
ants don't have the rights that we
You're a
do.
pervert.
Other mammals, other
am I
species, other
doing here?
insects,
do
by
you get out of
virtue
here?
of not being human, that does not give them the same rights as us.
Yes, this
James, I'm not-
this
I
is
don't-
still a circular answer. I mean,
mean,
it's
and I
it's
think
at the
that-
end of the day, it's human exceptionalism. Which, if you're going to just say, "Well, I'm a human exceptionalist," then you're a human exceptionalist. But the problem with human exceptionalism is there is no way to ground it, right? Because the answer is it's
how-
valuable.
Hold on.
I am
it's how
super
everything
exceptional.
has been
Yeah.
I'm super
assumed.
exceptional.
Every single function in society, every government that has tried to be true and good has always assumed that humans are special, unique, and valuable.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that this is true. That just means people
Right,
have
but
always
just so
done
you
this.
know,
This would be
just
another
like in
logical
the
fallacy.
hard sciences, we make assumptions as well, right? I'm an engineer. We have to make assumptions sometimes to solve problems. Otherwise, we would never solve problems. Assumptions aren't necessarily from the devil. Sometimes we make assumptions in order to
Uh-oh.
get to a result that makes sense.
You're gonna
Right, yeah, but you're
And
making
I'll
you're making
say-
moral
Javon.
assumptions based on
Javon,
based on
right,
circular
hang
reasoning.
on. Javon, hang on.
I do love
Even
making
even if
circular
we adopted a
logic
subjective
based on
worldview, right,
models.
where human beings kind of determine what is valuable and what is not, the undergirding principle is that as a society we acknowledge
true.
that human beings have elevated
just
value
drama
from other
farming.
species.
I don't
so
really-
even if again
I really
there is
don't
no
care about
objective
the
view,
Vosh
which
thing,
I
like-
would disagree with, but even if
Okay,
there
I'm
is no
gonna
objective
pause.
view, I still think that
Give
as
a
a
little bit of a thing. Like, come on, I don't care about the Vosh thing. Like, sincerely, it's just. I swear, it's just people just talk about the Vosh thing to get a boost in viewers and in engagement, and that's it. And that is, I don't want to grow my channel via Vosh leaked porn folder thing. That is definitely not something I want to do. To grow an audience from that, you know? There's like 2,000 people watching Keffels now because of the Vosh thing, of course, and the Hehe thing.
society we collectively agree that by virtue of being a
I
member
don't
of the
know.
human species,
I would
you
rather
have higher
grow
value.
for
Yes, this is just again.
History
This would just be an ad
or
populum fallacy,
politics
right? You're just
thing,
saying that this is the case
not for
because many
Vosh
people
leaking
believe
a
this to be the
porn
case,
folder.
which is fine. But that's not telling me why. That's just saying, well, these
Okay,
people
but-
believe
okay,
why, but
but
without giving
fine,
me a
fine,
reason
fine.
of why. Like that would be my issue in that.
That's fine. But do you want to carry that on
know
now?
what I
So
mean?
what's your stance on abortion and why?
Sure, I think
Because
abortion
that
up to
could be-
24 weeks, you can have an abortion in any way you want. After 24 weeks, any type of abortion should be an abortion that prioritizes the life of the fetus, because at that point the fetus
So why
has
viability?
reached. No, not viability. Sentience. Sentience just happens to coincide with
Okay,
viability.
okay.
I don't really
Right,
care
of
if it's
course.
viable or not. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
I think once it's a sentient creature, which is what I think
Good
we do
decision.
actually place value on in society, is creatures
do
that are
believe
sentient. I
this.
think once
I
we
think
have
so.
that
I
and
would
we've
like
reached
to
a
think
certain
so.
threshold for that,
That it's a good
then I would
decision.
say we should probably prioritize life.
I'd rather have a small audience from just doing history and the politics thing than a big audience from.
Does every single I just have a
Vosh
question, and I don't know
folder
what Felipe
thing.
has to say, but does every single 1-day-old have sentience?
Yes. I mean, they have
I
the
like your
necessary
content,
components to
because
run
you have
sentience.
said that's
Whether
the
they're
reason
sentient
why
or not,
Stay on them.
I wouldn't know without testing.
I mean,
but I
there
think
are-
the choice should
But
be
I
up to the
guess
parents
that
whether we
do
keep
that,
that
my
1 year
you know?
old
my
alive or
main
not.
issue with
There are
you, which
streamers
is,
that-
might be impossible to overcome, is that you actually it wouldn't
that
matter
do
the condition of the
only
1-year-old or the
serious
1
topics
week-year-old
and
or the unborn or the 20-year-old.
successful
You
doing
don't
it,
actually believe humans
you
have
know?
inherent value.
No, I don't believe
Perhaps-
humans have inherent value.
And
no.
also don't do the Vosh thing.
Right.
I think it's
So-
it's an indefensible position because not a single person
create
has been
things of
able to tell me
value.
why we just have exact
that's
value
why
without just
they
boiling it down to
deserve
human
our
why
respect.
threshold.
do you not allow people to unalive other people?
Because
why
we'd be removing the experience that's being had, the subjective sentient experience that is currently being had. We would be removing that thing. That's why we
Well,
don't let people unalive people.
Let me ask you a question. And
Uh-huh.
look,
Also,
I
that's
have
not
to
even
punt
a
in some
thing.
ways here.
We actually
'cause you really
can
have-
unalive other
you have fleshed
people.
out
Wars
this philosophical
exist.
view.
one.
Would it be allowable for you to walk into my apartment right now and to unalive me?
No, because I'd be ending your subjective experience.
So even that's not entirely
Okay.
true. The
And
whole
what
subjective
about
experience
if
thing.
I pushed
Was we
you?
quote unquote
could you
unalive
unalive me
people
then?
in wars?
No. The only time I think it's morally okay to unalive another person is if you're defending your own sentient experience. If you're not defending your own or another person's sentient experience, I don't think it's morally okay to unalive another human.
And sentience is the
I guess
hallmark
war
of a
fits
person.
into that.
Or
I
it is
believe
sentience.
sentience. I believe sentience to be the hallmark. I believe
Oh.
having experience to be the only thing that we
I'm
can
gonna
measure.
make it quieter then. Sorry.
Otherwise, you're just a body, and I just don't hold any moral.
So, but
Is
that's
that
very
better?
subjective, right? Like that's very vague. Why
Not really.
sentience?
Because that's when you're
Why?
having it.
Why
Because that's when
sentience?
you're having an experience. That's when you can actually
Right, but
extrapolate
does the
what's happening to
quality-
you.
Although I gotta admit
Okay.
that I'm
Does
quite
the
a small
quality of the-
creator.
Okay, well that's
I don't
psychology
typically
would
have
say
very
that.
big audiences.
there's a
I
lot
only
of
get
nuance
big
in that, but-
audiences
Yes,
when I
but
get
that's why I
rated
market
by
at
someone
24
that
weeks.
does.
So the quality doesn't. The quality
The
doesn't
only
matter. I
time
market
I
at the
reach
moment.
over
quality-
20 viewers is
No.
when somebody
Do you
rates
believe
me.
that the quality of your experience as a
With a
human
bigger
being
amount of
matters, or does that give you more or less worth, or is it just the fact that you're able to have that?
It's just the fact that you're
President
able to have the
Sunday
experience.
usually.
That's why I market at 24 weeks, which is 24 weeks is the point of pretty much consensus right now of when sentience can occur, right? So 24 weeks is when your neurons have matured enough. It's when there's been enough development of neurons. It's when there's enough connection between your sense organs and your hypothalamus. When all of that finally begins,
Hypothalamus.
I would say, boom, you have moral consideration. No one can take this moral consideration away until it has permanently ended. So until that sentence is permanently
supposed
ended,
to
no
do
one
now?
can remove your moral consideration. That's when I grant it 24 weeks, and those would be the reasons.
I completed the assignment. What now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we're always going to, and the chat's gonna. It seems to be in love with you, Joe Hoven or Joven. So good for you. But I think it'll be very difficult for me to agree with you on anything because
Yeah.
you don't believe in objective morality.
Yeah, and here's the
That's
other
because
thing. Like,
objective
who?
morality
Javon,
is
Javon, I'm curious to hear your
nonsense.
thoughts on like cognitive decline, right? Like sentience in theory can diminish over time. Like if you have like some kind of cognitive disorder or disease. Like
Yep, I addressed that.
Do you stop being valuable, or do you still
Nope.
retain that?
I
value
said
if
that
you lose
I
sentience?
said from the minute the parts of the brain necessary to run it are formed enough until it is permanently gone. So until it is permanently gone, you have the same moral consideration as any other person with sentience, because the experience that you're having is what is valuable, right? I don't care if a body is thrown off a cliff. Like a body that's not alive, you toss it off a cliff, there is no harm being done. There is no person experiencing
Experience
harm.
can be good and bad.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if someone lives a bad experience, are they less valuable?
what is objective morality?
All I value
Objective
is
morality,
that they're
if
having
you
an
have a
experience. I don't
certain
care if the experience
objective set
is
of
good or bad.
rules
All
that if
all
you
I care
break
about is
it
that they're
means it's
having an
bad,
experience.
and if
right?
you
That's what gives
Experiences
them
can be good.
moral
So wait,
consideration.
hold on.
It's
Hold on. I
good.
know you're trying to, yeah. So experiences can be good or bad.
Sure.
But you simply just care about that they're having the experiences. Why do you acknowledge they can be good and bad then? Because I feel like that there should be a connection there.
I'm
That-
not
that if you
understanding.
can
I'm not
have a
understanding the
bad-
relevance.
If you have a bad experience or a good experience, that should have an impact on your value, should it not? Because
No.
you are considering experience as this hallmark thing in the human life.
No, when we're talking about why experience is important, just a body. If this body can't experience the world, great, we can talk about like how we can fix bad experiences that are happening like to people. But like it doesn't remove the moral consideration just because one person is having a good
It's like
experience and
saying
one is not.
someone
Is
stays
that
in
bad?
Now because we've taken
fixed
away
rules as
the
to
obs-
what
the-
makes.
we can now look at every single case in development and say, oh well, let's think
My
about
my
the
worldview
experience.
is
Let's
not
think
my
about it,
worldview is
but-
not at
Ow,
odds with
ow,
objective
ow.
morality.
Hold on. Just let me finish, okay? But that's not how anything works. It's just
Uh-huh.
it doesn't. The law doesn't work that way.
Nothing works.
The United
Ow.
States doesn't work that way. So it's really grasp what you're saying because it doesn't operate under the most basic assumption.
Yeah,
As there is truth.
my worldview is not at odds with objective morality. You can still have
It is.
objective morality in my worldview.
No.
I would ask you why, right? Objective morality still needs a reason, right? There can't not be a reason here. But if your reason is you can't unalive them because they're humans, and I say, well, what is valuable about
Soul and the body, the rational soul and the body. We are the pinnacle of creation.
yeah, the heavy lifting would be on you here to now prove a soul. You would have to prove that. Like that's where the heavy lifting now comes in. The burden now goes to you, right? You're claiming that there is a soul. Now I can say there's a mind, but I don't think that bodies sans a mind matter.
What is it? What is it made up of?
I think it's a mind-body connection.
A mind-body
mind-body
connection.
connection.
Nice.
Yes.
Interesting.
I don't
Yeah,
think it's.
I
I
don't
don't think it's
I'm
just a body. I
not-
think there's nothing.
To reason with what we.
Well, wait,
what
but
we're
I'm
given. I don't know
I'm also living in reality, right? Like if
you have your own reasoning. I just.
well, it's not just me. What actually matters is how long your brain has been alive for 20 minutes. But we can keep the brain alive. We're going to keep the brain alive and wait 20 minutes till we can hook it up to a new heart. But if the brain dies for long enough, we don't even bother because we know that it doesn't.
We don't know how to
parts
revive
of
the
you
brain yet.
that are needed for you to be
We don't.
sentient and conscious.
We don't know
are
how to
gone.
fix those parts.
Right? They're gone at that
They're
point.
gone in the-
in society value sentience over anything else.
We don't know how to restore sentience. There might be a way, but we
Lost
just don't
belief
know.
And again, I think almost disrupt your narrative if you don't.
I have
Savon, you
inherent
gotta let people
dignity.
talk, man. You can disagree that.
Wait, can I just say really
Again.
quickly? You guys have interrupted me a lot, and like
True.
all I do is respond
Keep
back to
prattling
you,
and
I get
prattling
told
on.
I'm interrupting. But okay.
because you talked for
Like
5 minutes.
little
But the
parrot.
point
We have a higher capacity for rational pig that are able to in human dignity. It's that I
is subjective than really no one. Where
Yes.
we've had really arbitrary determinants for who gets who gets human rights, right? I mean, we can look back, slavery, like
That's not how
very
that works.
subjective.
yeah. So now a bad ideal. It's like in I don't remember the exact name of the appeal,
That's,
but it's
again,
it's
I-
a specific
no, I
fallacy.
know
Like
what
it's
you're
not
saying.
it's not telling me anything. It's just, well, this, like, one of my issues right now is you guys haven't been able to justify your position past we believe
I'm gonna invent a special kind of fallacy now. It is called "What I believe makes me feel better about the world" fallacy. It makes the world feel like a nicer place fallacy. There you go. That's kind of fallacy that I've just invented in my head. How do you feel
there's some
about that?
objective higher power that is telling us that this is
But
bad.
okay.
right?
To be fair, hold on. I have to jump in there.
Yeah, I
to
gotta
be fair,
jump
and
in.
I'm getting a lot of shit in the comments. That's fine. I'm 22 years old, so I'm not going to pretend to be this great theologian, although I aspire to be that one day. You can
Oh
hold
my
views
God.
as a person, right? And those,
Yeah, absolutely.
those views can seem correct to you, and they
People
can
do so
provide
much
a lot
better
of fruit for your
things
life
than
and the
this
life
at
of others.
22.
And I don't know what Felipe's views are necessarily, but I know he's Catholic.
Unfortunate.
I believe the church when the church says that human beings were made in the image of God. I believe the church when
That
the
is
church says that
unfortunate.
humans have this great deal of
That is-
value and they're worth protecting. Now, if you're going to ask me then to break that down, I can break it down to some extent, but being a young man myself, I will have to punt in some ways. Now,
Hiding
does that
behind
mean that I
age.
need to now be, I have to have a subjective view of the world? I don't think so. I think that's a fundamentally a weird view that you have. That I can't, that we, or me, I can't, that I can't move forward in my life with this view because it's an assumption. I mean, again, assumptions happen. We sometimes we have to make assumptions. Not everything is black and white, but that's my view. So you understand me better.
Yeah, I would just argue that your worldview is still subjective. It's subject to God, right? It's not subject to like your own reasonings, right? It's subject
it's
to
subject-
another
what is-
another
what is
person's another thing's reasons.
What is my definition of God? God is the infinite good. So he's complete truth. So it's subject to truth. That, in my view, in my objective view, I'm trying to discover and realize.
In your
truth.
objective view.
Well, yeah, again, this would still be
This
it's still
is
based on
subjective.
something that is not a fact, right? Like you're claiming that this is true, this is fact, but there is no evidence that this is true. This
No,
is fact. That's why we
Lucy
call
is
it faith.
buffering a lot.
That's why
It's
we say
not
you have to
just you.
believe in faith, right? Because there is no evidence, right? That's
So,
the whole
okay,
thing.
Well, no,
Javon.
that's actually.
It sucks.
There is evidence
Yeah.
for faith, right? Jesus Christ did rise from the dead, and there were
No, he
apostles,
didn't.
and there
I'm
was
Jewish.
the rise of Christianity.
Jesus
that will all
Christ
be
is a
evidence.
fraud.
Now, you don't have to necessarily believe the evidence, but that's evidence.
Can I ask you a question
and
on
I
that?
will say,
Jesus,
Javon, really quick, just to add to James' point, and then you
Jesus
can jump
Christ
in.
is a fraud.
There is no such thing as 100% certainty. Like,
There's no such thing as a Jesus.
I can assume, right, with maybe 90% certainty that James is in his
There's
house.
no
right?
such thing as
Um,
Jesus.
For all I know, he could be at work. He could be in a recording studio, right? If I look at my wallet and I say, yes, my debit card is in there because I left it there, right? I can't be certain. And that's similarly how faith works, right? Like we have evidence that points to the existence of a transcendent power, right?
Of trans
And like even
people.
in philosophy has its
And we
limits
we don't
because,
have evidence, by the way.
it's entirely based on evidence,
It's
right?
based. No, it's not based.
While philosophy may point to some kind of transcendent power,
It's the opposite.
we
of
can't
based.
prove definitively, right, that Jesus Christ is that transcendent power. But I would say, Javon, entertain our perspective for a moment. And
No,
I think that
thank you.
if you were to agree with us,
No,
right?
thank you. No,
You don't,
I
have to,
will.
But if you
no.
were to agree, and we
No.
were right that there is a transcendent power, right? That it's God, the Christian
Mm-hmm.
God, then our entire argument falls in line. But again, I still think that even without
Yes, if all the nonsense you believe is true, then indeed everything falls in line. How deep? This is so deep. And yet we know it's false because, if anything, Judaism is correct and your thing is incorrect. There you go. I've announced it. officially now.
Without faith, right? Without the Christian God, you're still able to make a case against.
Oh my God,
abortion.
he
But
actually
anyway,
just
carry on.
said, just agree with
Devon,
me.
I want to give you just
True.
a chance to respond, but then I do want to wrap it up.
Just
So
agree with
just
me.
whatever you gotta say. Go ahead.
True.
Yeah, I would just say if we're saying that
Why
we're now
not?
basing this on the Christian God, I would just argue that like based on the text revolving the Christian God doesn't actually value life. Like this isn't actually something that is valued. He values specific life. He doesn't value all life. This would just be like written into the text of your own book, right? So I would just say it kind of seems like we're cherry picking which things we believe God believes in and which things we don't believe God believes in.
Well, the church has taught the sanctity of life principle for a long time, but I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
All right,
All
no
right.
problem.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Siobhan.
Catholics are insane. True. You're wild, wild people. Wild, wild west. Okay, I'm gonna make myself full screen because you like how I look. I hope. Hopefully, you like. And I'm gonna quit the game, and then we can talk about the conference a bit, since that is the thing you like to listen to me about. I hope, maybe. Oh, game's over. The game's over. I'm gonna. Oh wait, the title is already on. There's nothing to change. How is everybody? How are you? I'm gonna brush my hair, as people do, when they wanna. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I do, but oh, where do my notes begin? When do my thoughts end and my notes begin? Madam President, EU. I'm looking at the notes because notes are sort of what I deemed to be noteworthy, and not just a stream of consciousness of everything that were in the conference. The things that I deemed worthy of noting down on my physical paper, in my physical paper notebook. So, how many of you actually know that there's been a conference happening, a peace conference in Munich, or Munich, 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 Munich. How many of you know about the peace conference? I have to know before I even start talking, before I even open my mouth. How many of you know? Munich Security Conference. Oh. It's continuing tomorrow. Good to know. It's a 3-day thing. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it tomorrow as well. I'm ignorant. Nope. Okay, so there's been this peace conference where the representatives, politicians, leaders of many different countries met to basically discuss security, Ukraine, what can be done, what should be done, the stance of different countries about different things. There were questions, there were sort of interviews, there were speeches, panels, and that happened all day. And I wrote down all the too significant to me quotes and opinions of different countries. I found this conference to be quite educational and quite interesting. Like when President Zelensky invited Trump to go to the front line in Ukraine so that he can firsthand see what the risks are and what the dangers are. That was nice. Or when Zelensky said that Putin has made the genocide of our people a regular part of his policy, which I would expect Zelensky to sort of agree with the view that what Russia is doing is waging a genocidal war. I would expect the president of Ukraine to be of this opinion, although it's a pretty factual opinion if you look point by point at what Russia is doing and what sort of intent lies behind what they're doing. I guess that's a topic for a different day, isn't it? And of course, there were a few jabs at slow decision making. Dictators don't go on vacation. The enemy does not pause. Even though the talk about the decision atrophy of freezing aid sort of took a bit of a worrying turn for me, for my taste later. A few things that Zelensky said in the at the conference made me a little bit worried, to be quite honest. But we'll get to it. We're gonna go through my notes bit by bit. That is what you like. You like this chaotic, like, stream of thoughts of my notes that I can read and I can discuss. I did it with the wasted lessons of the Holocaust thing, so I sort of thought, hey, I could do it here. It's another conference, another thing that I can write down random notes and sort of throw in my thoughts. Oh, this one's pretty good. This one's a note that I think speaks a lot. So, the more the so-called West dilly-dallies with aid, the more Ukraine is losing. And should Ukraine lose completely, which is not out of the realm of possibility, then at some point of Russian successes, Putin as an individual will stop mattering, because anybody that will replace Putin will see that what he did was successful and will try to emulate it and will see it as a good model of running a country, so they will just, they'll just keep course. Which, honestly, all things considered about the history of Russia, the history of the USSR, I would say that's been the case for a long time, to be quite honest. I would say that, I don't know. I think I've been saying from the very beginning of the full-scale invasion that even if Putin would die, some like-minded individual would replace him. I think Russia is basically already at that stage where what Putin is doing is seen as viable and effective, considering how long he's been in power, for one. Like, even if Putin would lose here, people would just see it as a mistake he made at the end of his reign. But he's been in charge for so long, so people would assume that most of what he did was good, since he was able to, stay afloat for a pretty long time, much like Orban. There was one thing that I was thinking. What was it? You think Russia would continue a push westward past Ukraine? Oh yeah. If it wins against Ukraine, of course. There were many voices saying that, for example, Poland should be next for denazification because Poland is basically a Nazi-infested country, so... And that if Poland keeps its course as it does, then the nation of Poland will have to be wiped out, because Poland is the country of people that always stir trouble and then, quote unquote, cries and plays victim. So they're saying that Poland is stirring trouble now, and then will be wiped out and will be crying and calling itself victim. So I do believe that should Russia win in Ukraine, they will definitely continue to try to rebuild their empire. There's this important doctrine that it's like the biggest legacy of Stalin. The biggest legacy of Stalin is that he formed a special form of relationship between citizens, the state, and the head of the state. It is a thing that sort of people tend to underestimate or even omit in their analysis of Russia. People often say, and while there have been some protests about the increases in the egg prices and the lowering of the standard of life and many other such things, there is big nostalgia for Stalin, mind you, in Russia, so it sort of makes sense. And the biggest doctrine of that Stalin has sort of, I would say, successfully installed within the USSR, and I would wager by extension in Russia, is that the individual citizens are subject to the interest of the state. In other words, even if the going gets tough for the individual citizen, even if the life quality goes down, even if the citizens should suffer, they do it for the greater good of the state, which is much more important than citizens, because it is the state that encapsulates the big historical changes, the big wheel of time that sort of is like the great destiny of being great history changers and moving things forward. And to that effect, the citizens just become cogs or tools to sort of facilitate this change done by the state. And then it goes further. The state is personified by the party which rules it. In that case, in the USSR, it was the Communist Party. And the party itself is personalized by their leader, which was Joseph Stalin. So Joseph Stalin basically personified the party, the state, and sort of also the citizens by extension. And so he was the big person that would move history forward, and hence all his whims and all his wishes sort of were elevated above the needs of the citizens, which included also having a livable standard of life. And we're sort of seeing that now, I feel, with Russia. That Russians they have to notice it. It's like that things are bad. Their ruble has crashed. The standard of living is worse and worse. And of course, there's also the whole thing that the citizens are terrorized, but it's a mixture of things, right? But then again, it's for the greater good, for great Russia, that is like the wonderful place that will change things. It's called Ostalgie elsewhere, or is it that specific to East Germany? I'm not sure. But yeah, I would say there is a part. That certainly, in my opinion, plays a part. That citizens feel like they're like their sort of needs are subservient to the needs of the state, and the state plays a grander purpose of rebuilding the empire, of moving the wheels of history forward, of introducing progress, whatever that actually means, all things considered, of introducing the big historical change. And the personification of the state, in this case, would be Putin and his whims to continue war in Ukraine, etc. And of course, this goes back to the fact that Stalin, who sort of really ingrained this type of mentality, himself sort of fashioned himself to be a type of Tsar. For a person that said that the Tsars were bad and took part in abolishing the Tsardom, he himself basically viewed himself as one. When, at the end of World War II, when asked how does it feel to be standing in a defeated enemy's capital, like he would say that, I think it was Alexander II, he would say that other Tsars just went all the way to France. He compared himself directly to Tsars. And also he gave speeches in which he praised Tsars and how they built a wonderful big empire that spanned throughout the continent, and how basically it's his sort of role to preside over such a wonderful empire, just as the Tsars have built. Or there is this, I guess, trajectory from the Tsars to the communist, quote-unquote, Tsar, which was Stalin, who was the personification of the state, which the personification was the thing that represented the higher value than the citizens themselves. And then we have modern-day Russia. That would also explain why the lives of the citizens are viewed so as so insignificant on the battlefield, since it doesn't really matter if the soldiers will survive an assault or not, if at the end of the day the goals are accomplished, which means that the state's goals are accomplished, which means that in the hierarchy the more important body gets what it wants and can move the wheels of history forward. I would sort of fit into the whole thing, wouldn't it? So that's it. That's just from that one note about Putin eventually not mattering, which I'm pretty sure we are already at that point. I think we're already at the point where Putin dying would not exactly just end things and create a huge change. That's what I think. That is my big opinion piece. Damn, I'm doing so well. Interestingly enough, when I've read news about Avdiivka retreating, there's been reports of some soldiers getting captured during the retreat, and now we've known what happened to them. They've all been killed with their hands being tied. Wonderful. Prisoners of war, what's that? That's just target practice, I guess. But that is the strategy, isn't it, for Russia, to just target soldiers and permanently eliminate them from the battlefield. That is also why Russia targets medics all the time in the areas where people are being gathered for further treatment. Russia super targets those. Russia targets ambulances. Russia very much wants to finish off wounded soldiers and also kill the medics treating them. So to eliminate any possibility of soldiers returning to the front. That is a strategy that we've known for a while. And that is a thing that the medics have been talking about a lot as well. Avdiivka is directly on, I would say, on the hands of the GOP. Directly. There's not even even a contest. Oh my gosh. Oh my. Okay, yeah, I learned about Ostalgie. Okay. That sucks. I mean, it's the reality. It's the reality of how Russia conducts warfare. We already know that Russia is using chemical weapons because the Geneva Convention means nothing. And we, of course, know that Russia is basically conducting a genocide. The clearest example being the transfer of children from one group to another, which is happening. And of course, like just executing whole groups of people. All in the favor of eliminating Ukrainian nationhood. American dream, having space for the dreams of others, I would say it's not a thing that I'm not according to the GOP. According to the GOP, the American dream is a very exclusive thing. It's a very exclusive club for a very exclusive group of people. Estonia has ramped up its GDP to 3%. Estonia is proposing Defense plus tech sector, technological advantage over Russia. There's been a whole interesting thing about this dissonance between Vladimir Putin's idea of what's going on and the actual Russian soldiers' idea of what's going on. Putin praising Russian equipment and weapons as the best, top of the line, and Russian soldiers actually complaining that it's very low quality. That has been also a thing that's been going on for quite a while. Russian officers complaining that the equipment they're working with is quite low quality, and Vladimir Putin singing praises, saying that it's the best equipment in the world. The newest, best quality, best effectiveness, best everything. It's just the best. Yeah, American Dream is not even for all Americans. Damn. And we of course know that North Korea has sent 1 million shells to Russia, and Europe cannot match that. Although I've just learned today that apparently the Czech Republic has found 800,000 artillery shells that could be bought from outside of Europe and sent to Ukraine within just a few weeks. So the Czech Republic is sort of echoing some of the other voices that have been saying for a while now, don't hide behind the production capacity, European Union. Just if you want to help Ukraine, then use the massive wealth that the European Union has at its disposal, and just buy the shells outside of the European Union and then send them to Ukraine. It's a very viable solution, while the European Union can at the same time ramp up its production. So you can do sort of this dual track solution. You can buy existing shells outside of the European Union, and you can scale up production within the European Union. Those are not exclusive things, and could be a game changer. Like if 800,000 shells were just bought now and sent to Ukraine, that would be a big game changer. A huge one, I would say. And of course, there's the whole 4 million cluster shells that Biden, theoretically speaking, can send because of the whole excess weapons thing. But there seems to be, throughout the conference, there seems to be pretty big optimism about the aid eventually getting passed in the US. 60 billion one. Is it it's 60 billion? Or it's big hope or it's big cope. And I'm wondering which one it is. I'm really worried about what has been said just today, or yesterday, sort of. Can NATO defeat Russia in production? Was the question. And of course, there was the fact that NATO is only 50% of the military sort of support. That NATO has a sustainment problem. NATO has depleted its stock. NATO is ramping up production but needs more. There's also there's also a big problem within the EU itself. It's somewhere later in my notes. That since the European Union is basically a whole bunch of small countries, each country has its own weapons industry, which means that each country tweaks the weaponry that it creates technologically to sort of be custom to that specific country, which means that even though the countries may be, theoretically speaking, producing the same type of rounds, the same type of cannons, all of them actually have different technology in them, which means that the rounds, artillery shells from one country might not be compatible with weapons from a different type of country. So that creates situations in which Ukraine is getting 155 millimeter shells, and they're not compatible with the types of artillery cannons that they have at their disposal. So the shells end up being useless. And there was a lot of discussion about sort of this need for the European Union to create a standard so that every single country would not just run on its own technology, like that the equipment would not be interchangeable, like that would not be compatible, that certain parts that can fix certain weapons would not be able to fix, theoretically speaking, the same type of weapon sent by a different country. That is definitely a huge problem faced by Europe right now. This non-existence of a single standard. A big example given, like a term thrown around, was national pride. National pride of individual nation states that want to sort of be special with their weapons industry and sort of put a special spin on the technology, which creates problems. And the big example given was that before World War II, Czechoslovakia had one of the biggest and best weapons manufacturing in Europe, which, by the way, is the real reason why Hitler wanted to annex Czechoslovakia that bad, is to get his hands on the Skoda manufacturing facilities. Because Skoda, as much as it's known for cars now, before the war it was known for creating things like tanks, and it was one of the best in Europe. So the example was that the Czechoslovakia sort of had pride of its weapons industry, but it fell because it wasn't willing to fight, and it was just abandoned by others. And that European countries should consider being less prideful about their individual technological sort of quirks and to embrace a single standard, and to instead be proud of the achievements of the weapons produced in their country on the battlefield. That is also sort of like a thing that was thrown around today. There's been a lot of criticism of US Congress, of course. Lack of decision in US Congress. It's not about making the right decision, it's about making the right decision urgently. Because war doesn't stop for decisions. War doesn't stop for political debates. And of course, representatives of the GOP were able to speak and give us such nuggets of wisdom as: the southern border is our priority. Number one consideration. Too many people cross the border, which the whole topic of the border is just stupid. What is even the problem with many people crossing the border? I would like a real fact-based objective answer as to what is actually the problem of many people going into the US. What is the actual issue there with immigration? Because it seemed like a farce. Democracy is messy was another thing that was said by by the GOP representative that was present at the conference for security. We will get there. It'll take us a bit. Democracies are messy. We will get there eventually. Maybe you'll lose a city or two. You'll sort of... A bunch of soldiers will die. Maybe a bunch of civilians will die. But you know what? Eventually, we will get there. We'll get there eventually. That's okay. It's okay. Democracies are messy. And then, of course, whined about the deal proposed by Biden by saying it talks about the quotas of 5,000 people per day. And it used to be 1,000. Unacceptable. 5,000 people per day. And democracy takes time. Like, it's so... I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know what to say to a person calmly sitting and saying, democracy takes time. We will get there. While Ukraine is facing a critical shortage of ammunition and people are dying. Cities that could have been defended easily are abandoned. Ukrainian forces are forced to retreat out of the risk of being completely surrounded. And the surrounding itself happens because Ukraine has no anti-air defense. It has no shells, no nothing. And then the GOP just says, give it time. Just, I guess, hang in there a bit longer. We'll get there eventually. Like... And people actually started pushing against this, thank God, by asking the logical questions, the obvious questions, like a question that I really liked was, so will Ukraine falling help the US border? How will Ukraine falling help the US border exactly? Was the question asked. And of course, the GOP, in a very pathetic moment, its amazing representative said, millions of people are trying to get in illegally every day. It is not quite the same thing as a full-scale invasion of a country. But you know, we need to have grace about these issues. Like, imagine if the whole Barbarossa operation was underway and that the US decided sort of not to jump in World War II because there was a really, really important border issue. Listen, the Axis powers might be sort of pushing and gaining ground. Have you considered that at least 5,000 people daily are trying to breach our border illegally? Have you considered that? We have to have our priorities straight. Hitler and others, Hitler and the buddies can do whatever they want until the border is resolved, damn it. And we will not settle for a crappy deal. That'll set the thing at the 5,000 people. It used to be 1,000, damn it. Until it's 1,000 or 0, preferably, we're just gonna abandon the world, I guess, to the Axis powers. That is my World War II comparison time thing. Oh yeah, and of course there's the incompatibility of the shells. Estonian rounds won't work with the howitzer. So weapons and ammunition must be interchangeable. But there was this... Okay, there was this nice jab that Estonia did at the whole US border crisis thing. The horrible US border thing. I really like the Estonian jab at the GOP. The Estonian jab was really nice. So Estonia 6% of people are now Ukrainian. We survived. So I think the US can survive immigration as well. That was basically the jab. If we can survive with 6% of our population being Ukrainian, then I think you can sort of survive with immigration as well, no? And I distinctly remember the representative not having any smart response to that. Oh yeah, the representative also said Xi Jinping is watching this situation, so we must help Ukraine. I love it when a politician representing the grand old party says, we need to help Ukraine, whatever it takes, because China is watching and they will take notes that they can do whatever they want. And then in the same breath, the same GOP person says, but we cannot really send aid to Ukraine because the border thing is still not settled. Love it. Yeah, that is a good one from Estonia. A lot of nice things were said today. And a lot of pretty horrible things were said. I guess it was yesterday, technically speaking, but a lot of pretty horrible things were said by certain representatives of certain countries. But I was like, how can you say one thing and then completely contradict yourself 5 seconds later so blatantly, so horribly? I mean, that was an example of that as well. When the GOP guy said, oh, I'm not gonna name names. I'm not gonna put people on the spot. When he said, Xi Jinping is watching, we must help Ukraine. But actually we can't help Ukraine. The border thing just prevents us from sending any aid to Ukraine. How unfortunate. But we totally must help Ukraine. You see? You see? You see? I even made a little bit of a note. Isn't Xi Jinping watching the US decision atrophy? WTF. WTF, Mr. GOP. US needs to make a decision now. It's up to us to upkeep values while freezing aid to Ukraine. Amazing. Oh yeah, the GOP representative also said it's gonna be a very dangerous world in 10 years. To which I wrote, "You're creating that dangerous world. What do you mean? You're directly creating that dangerous world right now for your border bullshit." I guess it's easy to predict an outcome that you yourself are contributing to actively. I guess it's easy to set the stage for something to happen and then smugly say, well, this is about to happen. I guess it's I guess it sort of takes away from you being a brilliant predictor if you're the architect of the bad things that are about to happen. Oh yes, that was the richest thing when the GOP representative that is against sending aid to Ukraine because of the border thing said that a lady came to him in his state and said, I don't want my grandson to be sent to a war. And then he said, without a hint of irony, that's why we are giving Ukraine weapons. Incredible. Incredible. It's like the bullshit that flows out of the GOP members' mouths is incredible. The border is our priority. This is what we're focusing on. Democracy takes time. We'll get there. We cannot send aid now because we have to take care of the border. But actually, we need to send help because China is watching. And we are sending weapons because Americans don't want to send their children to the war. Make this make sense. Oh, it doesn't make sense because that's not what the GOP is after. Making sense. Imagine. Of course, some obvious things were said that Europe is profitable for the US and the war affects that. That's pretty. A big question thrown around during the security conference was whether or not Europe is actually ready for war. That it took Ukrainian society about 8 years to be fully ready to embrace the idea of full-scale war like this. And that a lot of European societies are not exactly prepared for that. Four points were mentioned. That the money in the European Union must be, of course, spend more, spend better. Interchangeability was a big topic once again. That there should be a standard of shells that will work with all types of weapons given to Ukraine. There cannot be a situation in which Ukraine uses an artillery gun that accepts 155 millimeter shells. And technically speaking, the unit or team gets those shells, but they're incompatible with their gun. That shouldn't be a thing. Like, Ukrainians should not be getting shells that are incompatible with their guns. That should not happen. There should be a standard. Should be a standard there. So that's a big problem. More jobs in Europe. Of course, the fourth point is prioritizing Ukraine and all of the ramping up of defense expenditure and and making it all interchangeable. One of the sentences that I can understand the sentiment behind it, it's sort of, I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of we are learning a lot in Ukraine. I don't like the picture that is suddenly in my mind of Ukrainians dying on the battlefield and facing shortages and sort of being in a grave situation, civilians being bombed and genocided, quite frankly, and sort of leaders in the West sitting comfortably and looking and being, yes, we're learning a lot. Yeah, we can learn from this. Certainly. I don't know. It's It's a really weird image in my mind. It creates a lot of weird images. I can sort of understand the sentiment of we can use this to better help, but it still sort of smells of the Ukrainian is our little testing ground of warfare at the expense of Ukrainian lives. Our little experiment of how warfare should be conducted, so that we can possibly in the future conduct it more cleanly and with less deaths. Because they're the testing ground, the ground zero. Like, I don't like that at all. I'm not even sure if that was necessarily the sentiment, but that is how it came off to me, certainly. Is Norway ready to defend Europe? The answer is of course not. One of the other big sentiments was that Ukraine is certainly not a success story for Putin. He was supposed to win a lot earlier, and he's struggling. That's a reminder was done that 80% of NATO capacity is non-European, US, Canada, UK, and that we need standards for the military. Again, the question of standards was brought up, especially in Europe, where every single country creates its own little standard. 27 little standards that often are not compatible with one another, which is again a big problem. Once again. Damn. Other autocrats are watching. This thing is not just about Russia. It's about global democracy prevailing. This is hardcore security, is a sentence that I wrote down from the conference. And here it is. It took 8 years to prepare the general public in Ukraine to be ready for the war. Oh yeah, governments are actually doing some really smart thinking with the aid packages. The countries in the EU are sort of creating long-term package plans so that should the government in a given country change from the moment that a package is passed, that the new government will still be bound to follow the conditions of the past package, so that they won't be able to just abandon it. So that's pretty good. It was even called smart thinking. Oh yeah, and some representatives and leaders of countries said that people in certain countries should be able to be prepared to handle a few days without electricity. They're fixated on public preparation for war because if the public... Okay, I guess I have to explain what I mean by public preparation for war. I guess I'm not being specific here. By public preparation for war, I mean, are people actually ready to take up arms and defend themselves to the death? That is what I mean by public preparation for war. Like, are people gonna actually take up arms and go to the war, or are they just gonna flee? Most of them. You know what I mean? That is a big factor. Like, people being actually prepared in the face of an invasion or an imminent war to actually take up arms and fight. It is not an insignificant factor. Yeah. If people are actually prepared to fight, that is a pretty big factor, I would say. That was a big question during yesterday's conference. And that it took 8 years basically for the wider Ukrainian society to be prepared. According to President Zelensky, I believe, those were his words, that it took 8 years to prepare the wider Ukrainian society to fight. Oh yeah, there was a really good question because there were a lot of questions from the media, from journalists, and one of them said, yes, that not just from, okay, there were members of parliaments, there were journalists, there were many different people in the audience that were able to ask questions. And this is asked by a Ukrainian parliament member about the sanction problems. So according to some data, 70% of Russian weapon components still come from Western companies and third-party countries that want to sort of jump in on the sanctions thing and make a buck by selling components to Russia, and that Russia is basically avoiding sanctions by once again still purchasing 70% of its components from Western companies. So the question was basically, what are you going to do about it? What do you plan to do about it to not just let Russia avoid sanctions like that? The answer was the sanctions are working. Russia had to go 100% war economy, which, yeah, it had to, right? It's 100% war economy. The moment the war is not there, Russian economy is gonna face a disaster. The only way forward for Russia is now to continue the war and win. And then I don't know what route they would have to normalize the economy. I guess they would just continue the war some more since they're full war economy. So that's a thing that definitely is like the result of the sanctions, that Russia had to go full on war economy mode. And sanctions are not static. The enemy will keep trying to go around them. And the packages, the new sanction packages, are there to close these loopholes of trying to circumvent the sanctions. Persistence is key in upholding the sanctions. Persistence is key. And putting forward more and more packages, which, by the way, the 13th, I think it's the 13th package was, I believe, vetoed by Hungary. Hungary is just, Hungary is Hungary. Sexual abuse, pedophilia scandals do not hamper Hungary from still having the time and energy to veto sanction packages. And of course, there was the topic of using the frozen assets, or rather the profits generated by the Russian frozen assets. There was an interesting question later on in the conference, because the European Union is playing by the book, really by the book when it comes to these things, like really stressing that the European Union is playing by international law, by the rules, and Russia is not, which means that the European Union cannot just take the frozen assets and give Ukraine $300 billion. I think it's dollars. It means that it has to find legal ways to use this money to be able to give whatever it can to Ukraine. And the most viable, legally sound method seems to be taking the revenue generated by those 300 billion and giving that to Ukraine. But there was a reporter later on in the conference that basically asked, so how long are we going to play this naive game of democracy and basically not use any of the Russian money to help Ukraine, but instead use European taxpayers' money to fight Russia? That was actually, I think that was by a Ukrainian reporter. How long are you gonna just play by the rules to play by the rules? As that was a question asked at some point. So it had to go 100%. War economy. We need to find ways to tap into Russian frozen assets legally. See, the key thing is legally, by upholding the law. Oh no, never mind. I think it was a Lithuanian parliament member that asked the question that I just mentioned. Russian assets and war crimes. How long will the naive democracy game be played? Taking money from EU citizens rather than Russia, frozen assets. And a Ukraine parliament member asked, will you support Ukraine joining NATO? And actually, again, an interesting question was asked later about Ukraine joining NATO. The question was, if you're tying Ukraine joining NATO to Ukraine not being at war, aren't you basically just signaling to Putin that he should just continue the war endlessly and never end it, so that Ukraine can never join NATO? Aren't you just basically telling Putin to continue the war forever in one form or another, so that Ukraine is barred effectively from NATO? Oh, of course. And then there was the Foreign Affairs Minister of China speech. That speech. Oof. That speech. Very interesting. Very interesting speech by the Foreign Affairs Minister of China. So first, the foreign minister went on a whole spiel how China and the EU are two major powers in the world, that we must see each other as partners, not opponents. That China criticizes the Palestinians being displaced, that China wants the creation of an independent Palestine state, that China promotes peace in the Ukraine-Russia crisis, a very interesting name for the war. To build consensus and achieve peace, to de-escalate, to end the conflict. Okay? And that China is just this peacemaker in historical... Oh yeah, it's just a peacemaker. And also that China faces historical disputes. China, which is a quote, wants communication. That's one. Cooperation and friendship. Communication, cooperation, and friendship, which is rich considering what the foreign affairs minister says. And he kept saying that Xi Jinping is the best guy, and he thought of all these brilliant things. He kept referencing Xi Jinping. That China is reviving multinationalism and is in favor of creating a body that would control AI. And then he said, and this is amazing, the integrity of the borders of all countries must be preserved. But then, seconds later, after saying that all borders of all countries, their integrity must be preserved, merely seconds later, he said, Taiwan is ours. And for world stability and peace, Taiwan independence must be rejected. Wait. I thought that all countries' border integrity must be respected. What happened? Merely seconds later, it turns out that no, actually, Taiwan is Chinese, and for the peace and stability of the world, the independence of Taiwan must be rejected outright. So which is it? Does China promote the integrity of all countries and their borders? Or is there an unless it's Taiwan caveat here, which there seemed to be? And of course, one China doctrine must be upkept. And then he added that there's a visa-free policy for several countries. So China is just the best. But it's not the only wild thing that the foreign affairs minister of China has said. He was on a roll, so that was just the start, the Taiwan thing. He said a lot more. I wrote down in my little notebook. The absence of cooperation is bad, said the minister. Jesus. Oh yeah, shutting out China is a historical mistake. Globalization cannot be reversed. So basically China was very sadly saying, we might be doing some bad things, but globalism, and besides, trying to shut us out of cooperation is just bad. Whatever we do, you should just cooperate with us because absence of cooperation is bad. Remember? And China has said, or rather the Minister of Foreign Affairs has said something very deep and profound. And since it's very deep and profound, I have written it down. And that is, those who work together must seek win-win solutions and avoid lose-lose solutions. Nice. Actually, that was the conference motto, it seems. Lose-lose with a question mark. So there were questions to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and one of them was, well, don't mess with China. So one of the questions was, so in 1994, there was this thing called the Budapest Memorandum, when Ukraine was asked to give up its nukes, and China supported that memorandum. Do you remember? Do you regret? Do you regret your support for that memorandum? Is there any regret in your heart? Oh! Which was, of course, not honored. We all know that the Budapest Memorandum was not honored. But more interestingly, that some of the questions were actually really nice. Some of the questions were like, oh my. Oh my. Those are actually the questions that you want to ask brutal regimes. So one question asked was, wait, you said you want peace and prosperity, cooperation, that you did all the best to sort of facilitate peace with Russia and Ukraine. But actually, when the invasion started in 2022, trade between China and Russia rose by 30%. What's up with that? You claim to be pro-peace, and yet your trade with Russia just rose 30% in 2022 when Russia attacked Ukraine. Can you explain that to us? How that sort of fits into your model of peace, cooperation, and wanting the war to end? Also, actually, this year, the trade was at increase of 25%. 40 billion in trade. Can you sort of tell us more about this? Can you tell us more about your good relations, your good trade relations with Russia while it's invading Ukraine, which you claim you want peace? So that was and the answer was the question. They didn't ask it like they did not ask it like that. But the question that I wrote down is: should China not pressure Russia more to not make your words sound like a bunch of bullshit? Should China not follow its words about cooperation, peace, and being the peacemaker with rather, pressuring Russia to back off rather than increasing trade with it by 30%? Because it just, I don't know, it just feels like you're full of shit, China. It just feels like you're not really committed to what you're saying you are. Let's see what the answer was. I think I wrote down some of the answer. I wrote down some of the answer to that one. So first, they addressed the Budapest Memorandum. China was not a part of the memorandum. We kept our commitment. We just sat at the sidelines and sort of were okay. We didn't take direct part in it, so you can don't blame China for the Budapest Memorandum. And they added, weirdly specifically, very weirdly specifically, we have kept our commitment to not use nuclear weapons first against non-nuclear states. And that includes Ukraine, they added, weirdly specifically. Hey, we didn't nuke Ukraine. We kept our commitments. What? Oh, damn. That's wonderful. That's great. Hey, we didn't nuke them. It's not like we nuked Ukraine or something. We keep our commitments. I mean, that's technically speaking true. That is true. You indeed have not nuked Ukraine yet. Because basically this sort of commitment isn't in reality not worth much. The whole commitment of we will never, the commitment, nuclear commitments like, oh, we will never strike first, or we will never strike a non-nuclear country. We're just, those commitments are just as good as the declaration, just as good as the word of the country making the declaration. You have to take them at their word. There's no real tangible guarantee that they won't do it. Like, they might decide to do it at any moment and be like, screw it, we'll do it. But that's not a real, there's no real deterrence behind it. Like, oh yeah, we promise, pinky swear, we will never nuke a non-nuclear power, or we'll never do the first strike. We'll trust us. Trust us, we would never do that. Oh. Trust us. Look at this country face. Do you not trust us? Oh yeah. And they also, of course, addressed Ukraine war. We did not start, participate, or take advantage of this crisis. And by this crisis, the minister meant war in Ukraine, which I can agree, certainly, that China did not start it. Okay? I can certainly agree that China did not participate, although that's sort of also questionable. But I will definitely not agree that China did not take advantage of it. I'm sorry, trade increasing by 30 and 25% with the aggressor, that's not taking advantage of it. That's not taking advantage of the fact that the West is sanctioning Russia, and suddenly trade with China becomes a very attractive proposition. That's, you sure? Are you sure that's not taking an advantage of the crisis? A little bit? It's a smidgen? Are you sure? Just a smidgen measured in numbers, plus 30 and plus 25%? I don't know. I'll just leave it up to the historians in the future. I leave it up to the historians in the future to decide whether or not China truly did not take advantage. Hello. Oh. Interesting. You should be able to add a comment. Yeah. China is just wild. Oh yeah, and they topped the cake of saying we did not start, participate, or take advantage by saying, instead of doing these three things, we facilitated peace. We facilitated peace. Okay? We just want peace. Unless it's Taiwan. Taiwan's ours. Get your grabby hands off of our Taiwan. But China totally respects border integrity of all countries, unless it's Taiwan. Unless it's Taiwan. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm pretty sure I have notes here about more rants about Taiwan. I'll try again. Oh yeah. And then they did their best to explain the whole trade thing. We are a country of no confrontation. Okay? We're not a, which is a bold-faced lie, by the way, considering how very much confrontational China is when it comes to places like Japan, Vietnam, and of course, the biggest prize, Taiwan. There's a reason why all of the Asian countries view China as Eastern Europe views Russia. There's a big reason for that. So we're just upkeeping normal relations with Russia by doing the 30% plus trade and then 25% trade. We're just upkeeping normal relations. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with keeping normal trade relations with a genocidal regime that is trying to invade and erase a nation from existence? Who doesn't do that in the name of peace and global stability? You cannot blame China for the situation in Ukraine. We played a positive role. That is paraphrasing, if not word for word, what the Chinese minister said. You cannot blame China. We cannot blame Ukraine on us. We played a positive role in it. So there you go. But we're not done with China quite yet, because there was another question to the Chinese Foreign Affairs Minister, which I did not quite expect. I did not quite expect this question to be asked, and I welcomed it when it happened. I was quite pleased when it happened. So the next question to China was, so can you tell us a little bit about the genocide happening in your country? The Uyghur genocide? About the labor camps? About the sort of this forced conversions thing, you know, the whole shebang, the whole thing, the whole genocide in Xinjiang that's happening? Can you shed some light? And we got an answer. We got an answer that's a classic answer. I will just say that. It's a classic answer, which actually reminded me of the Holodomor, interestingly enough. It literally reminded me of the Holodomor, and you'll see why in a moment. So the answer is, it's all fake news and misinformation. This topic is full of fake news and misinformation. The Uyghur population grew, so the so-called genocide is a lie. The lifespan of them grew from 30 to 75. In Xinjiang is religious freedom is super guaranteed, basically. The so-called that answer I really liked. That answer was the next answer is just great. The so-called forced labor is a lie because the Uyghurs are simply enjoying their right to employment. The so-called forced labor is a lie because they just enjoy their right to employment. Would you take that away from them? Is that democracy? Is that what freedom is? Dear questioner, is that what you see as freedom? Taking away their employment opportunity? And this is the part of the answer that reminds me of the Holodomor. You can all visit Xinjiang, and it is open for everybody to visit. COVID made it hard to visit for some time, but now all of you can visit and see how great it is. It reminded me of those. It reminded me of those visits, those tailored visits to Ukraine after at the end of the Holodomor, when people were basically staged to create a picture of prosperity and how great it is. I think it was in Kharkiv. I believe it was in Kharkiv. And the people who would visit would go back and, wow, the USSR is so prosperous. Like, it's so cool. There's like everybody's doing so well. And that basically reminded me of that. Because, of course, anybody who would visit Xinjiang in China would be under a strict supervision from the Chinese government. It's like, I don't believe for a second that people would be just allowed to roam free and do whatever. That they would not be under any sort of supervision. Like, I do not believe for 1 second that people can just basically visit and free roam. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the genocide is a lie. Maybe we're all just wrong. Visitors verify that it is a lie. You know, just like in the good old Holodomor times, visitors also verified that it was a lie. You know, apart from those who came earlier and actually saw what was going on and tried to report it to the world, but those don't count. The ones that actually count are the visitors that showed a very nicely tailored picture. Gareth Jones, he doesn't count. Gareth Jones doesn't count. Ridiculous. Gareth Jones just doesn't count. Only those who we selected to visit count. I'm gonna like this. Oh, yeah. And finally, a big reason was given as to why foreign agents are lying about the genocide in China. Do you know why? Do you know why people are lying about the Xinjiang genocide? It's because, and I quote, liars are lying to stop the development of China. That is the reason. Liars are just lying in order to stop the development of China. That is the reason of lying about the genocide. Just people that are out there to get China and stop its development. China growing is a disturbance to them, so they have to manufacture a story about a genocide. Okay? And we need to transcend our differences. We cannot believe the liars that lie in order to stop the development of China. We need to instead transcend our differences. Okay? And China is the defender of freedom of nations. But the minister felt the need to repeat once again that Taiwan is Chinese and that Taiwan, after all, and this is a very, very interesting part of the rhetoric, because I think I've heard it somewhere before. If you've heard it before, tell me, because Taiwan has never been a country. Which is very hilarious considering that China in the same, like that the minister in the same speech said, we demand the formation of an independent state of Palestine. Even though the same argument is being thrown about Palestine, that it has been never a country. In fact, that is one of the primary arguments used by Russia when it comes to the invasion of Ukraine, that it has never been a country, that it is artificial, created by Lenin. So, really? We're gonna go for the classic authoritarian, the place that we want was never a country to begin with, so it's okay to just take it over? They're not a real country, you can just invade? Really? Is that what we're going with? And who is rejecting the peaceful reunification? If not the stubborn government of Taiwan itself, the people in charge of it, the DPP. I don't know. China has said some wacky stuff in the conference. Oh yeah. They didn't. I almost forgot. I almost forgot that it's not over yet. Taiwan independence contradicts peace. Oh yes, and of course, South China Sea territories are, of course, also China's. Because, again, the argument is that China was in control of these islands before the countries that are now claiming the islands even existed, which I would need to fact check actually if that's even true. When China took care of those islands, the countries that are now claiming that the islands are theirs, those countries didn't even exist. And China is for peace. Even though China is extremely aggressive against Vietnam, against Japan, again, when it comes to those China Sea islands. By the way, there's a naming war between Japan and China. China calling it the Chinese Sea and Japan calling it the Japanese Sea, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure Japan calls it the Japanese Sea. It's a little trivia for you. China demands ceasefire in Gaza, make peace, no more fighting, two-state solution, 30,000 civilians are dead, unaccounted for civilians are dead, displaced Palestinians that cannot return, we know about all that, and a Palestinian state must be formed. Because in China's sort of idea, it is okay to form a Palestinian state, but it is unacceptable for world stability for Taiwan to exist for some reason. Which, please Please make it make sense. We must settle the Palestinian question, said China. Oh yes, and also China says, we've never started a single war, very conveniently forgetting about the China-Vietnam War, where China was the clear aggressor. How convenient. But apart from that, China has basically never started a war, has it? Apart from that war that it started. Apart from that, there just have not been any wars started. (1979) November 2nd. On November 2nd, 1978, the two countries signed the Soviet-Vietnamese Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation. This string of events set the stage for China to invade Vietnam on February 17, 1979. Oh, how nice that on the day of the conference it was actually an anniversary of the invasion of Vietnam by China, during which China said, "We never started a single war," says China on the anniversary of invading Vietnam. That's lovely. That's great, China. Only good nation. Like say Podniebesny. I mean, we're not talking about that now. But hello, first time chatter. We're talking about China now and its statements during the security conference. Welcome, chatter. So, and then we had some statements. That was the end of China. That's basically... Like who? That's so rude. I'm a trans woman. How can you say that to a trans woman? That's so rude. That's so rude. Why do you say that to me? Do you look a little bit like him? I don't. Why do you say that to me? You make me sad. You shouldn't say that to a trans woman. It changes nothing of what I said. Oh wait, let's continue. So the Secretary of State of the US had some ability to speak. That's not interesting. Europe must come face to face with its colonial past. That's nice. Are people questioning siding with Ukraine? The rule of law is a lie. A lie. The rule of law is a life insurance for many countries. I guess that's true. Why do you support the Russia-Ukrainian war? I don't support the... What do you mean? What do you mean when you ask me why do you support the Russia-Ukrainian war? What do you mean by support? You have to You will have to specify. What do you mean by support? Damn. Having a discussion with a chatter again. I just cannot help myself. What do you mean by support? What am I supporting? Depending on your answer, you might be right. I might be supporting. But the question is, what am I supporting exactly? That is the main question. What did they say, Lucy? I will insult. No, don't insult anyone's mother, please. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm waiting for an answer. If I don't get it soon, I'm just gonna move on. No? No follow-up to my question, what I am exactly supporting? That's it? You just threw it, okay, and left. Okay. So, Secretary of State of the US, we need alliances and partnerships, a strong network of voluntary alliances. If you're not at the table, you are on the menu, which is a saying that you should remember, commit it to memory, because this saying will return. This saying will return, okay? If you're not at the table, you are on the menu. We need responsible relations with China, offer them a good choice, which, I'm going to be honest, I am very, 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 very worried that after World War II, the fiasco with Russia, post the Cold War, we're still at, we just need to offer the other party a good enough deal and that'll solve everything. I am really, really saddened that that is still where we are. If only we give them a good enough deal, surely they will stand down. When time and time and time again, this has not worked. An example was given of the great deal on fentanyl with China, which apparently did some great things with the fentanyl problem in US, which my knowledge on the fentanyl thing is pretty limited. Admittedly, I don't know much about the fentanyl problem in US. It's not a thing that I have big expertise on by any means. Countries fight for their self-interest, alignment with allies. Yeah, basically. And then a representative of India said, India has multiple choices and can pick and choose topics and alliances. And the representative of India said, we do have multiple options. Is that wrong? You should admire me for having multiple options. Is that a problem for others? No. We simply were not pursue certain options. We are not purely transactional after all. We have our morals. Oh, this is also the line that I'm getting a little bit of tired of hearing time and time again when it comes to especially conflicts, especially conflict in Ukraine. I'm very tired of hearing that. Life is complicated and differentiated. Good partners provide choices. Go back to how it began. Like that life is complicated. It's not all black and white. Well, in some cases, it actually is pretty black and white. We do not want rigid blocks. We want a puzzle of different countries. That is the Secretary of State of the US. Solution can be done on exclusive basis. Like that's a problem for me, okay? Yes, we do not want rigid blocks. But I'm sorry, sometimes rigid blocks will form whether or not you like it. Like for example, Russia would be a big example. Nobody wanted Russia to be part of a rigid separate bloc. Everybody tried to reason with Russia. Everybody tried to trade with Russia. Everybody tried cooperating with Russia. Germany made its whole energy policy dependent on Russia. And what did Russia do? As a good business partner, as a good international partner, it invaded Ukraine and just didn't care. That's what happened. So it takes two to tango. There's this famous saying. You cannot just wish on your own for no rigid blocks to form and sort of make it reality by sheer force of will and offering a good deal. You have to take into account the actual incentives, the actual goals, the actual ambitions of the other side. You cannot just assume that what you want is exactly what the other side wants. That all countries across the board are incentivized by the same universal thing, being a good trade deal, for example. Because that can backfire. And it has. With Russia. It has with Russia. And this is also a problem for me, quite frankly. Okay? The Secretary of State said, we work with democracies first and foremost, of course. But we will work with anyone willing to solve specific problems. Which, in my opinion, this sort of attitude was what basically enabled China. Well, not China. I mean, China as well, quite frankly. China is just doing its genocide with full sort of not caring and is preparing to reintegrate with Taiwan as we speak, probably. But it also enabled Russia because countries worked with Russia on solving certain problems, like energy problems of Germany. That was a problem for Germany, and Russia was more than willing to work with Germany on that problem. Perfect. And yet that just did not work out all that well for Ukraine. Damn. Maybe ignoring certain things about certain dictatorships are just not the way to go. Even if it means finding other ways to solve specific problems. No? Maybe sometimes looking for alternatives in advance, long term, is more beneficial than working with countries that might in the future prove to harbor certain imperial ambitions. Right? Right. Yeah. I think we agree. Oh. Foreign Minister of Germany, where are human rights? Where are Western values? Black and white world of our bubbles. We need a ceasefire in Gaza was also a pretty big topic in the conference. We need a ceasefire in Gaza to save the children. How do we do it? I look at the other bubble, the October 7th. This is the type of two-siding, of making like an equivalency between two sides that are just, I'm not sure I like as well. Well, the Palestinians might be bombed and mass killed, but have you considered that October 7th? Like, this is a bit of a simplistic. Interestingly enough, it's an attempt at being nuanced that ends up being really, really simplistic. We must step out of right and wrong. We must be able to look at things from the other side, which, again, sometimes we are simply dealing with the right and the wrong. I don't think we need to necessarily step out of right and wrong when it comes to the invasion of Ukraine. I don't think we need to do that. I don't think we necessarily need to, at least right now, as the war is happening, to look at things from the side of Russia. I don't think there's any benefit right now to it. It could be analyzed in the future to see what exactly sort of the mentality was. But right now, I don't see the benefit, quite honestly. And UNES Secretary of State, we are all as humans driven to stop suffering, which I'm not even sure if that's true, to be honest, that all humans are driven to stop suffering. That's to stop suffering of others. I'm not even sure if that's true. The biggest poison is dehumanization. I agree with that. And to call out demonization whenever you see it from whichever side, which can get tricky. It can certainly get tricky. The dehumanization, especially when the dehumanized side is actively genociding you, and the party doing the dehumanization is sort of is a mechanism that the genocided party adopts. It's can get tricky. Rhetoric versus action. Of course, everybody said that Israel needs to be, that their weapons need to be sent to Israel in order not to allow another October 7th to happen, which in my opinion is a laughable proposition, because Israel was well within its power to stop October 7th. Had it, for example, simply not ignored its own intelligence and reports of an October 7th coming, because that is what happened. Israel simply ignored all warnings about that attack coming. Israel was not severely lacking in means of stopping October 7th, so that it desperately needed weapons aid. That is not Israel. Israel is not in a situation like Ukraine is. Ridiculous. And we've, of course, completely forgotten that right before October 7th, Israel was hard at work at sort of compromising its courts and democracy itself. But you know what? Whatever. October 7th wiped all of that clean. We forgot that, like, Israel was well on its way to just doing away with democracy. That's good. That's cool. And there was a huge protest happening. We need more, and that there is a silver lining, that at least now we have a few humanitarian trucks going to Gaza, and that we need more humanitarian. That sounds so sad. Send less guns, send more humanitarian aid, please. Israel security. A representative of India said that he has no advice. And that Israel should have been more mindful of civilian deaths. And that there must be a humanitarian corridor made. And that there must be a rescuing of the, you know, of the captured, of the, like, hostages. And India also said that a permanent solution must finally be done. A two-state solution or something. And there was an actually good question. There was actually a good question. So, has what's been happening for the last 4 months actually, will that actually reduce the possibility of another October 7th happening? Like, is what's been happening actually working in for, you know, is that gonna end up in another October 7th not happening? And of course the answer was, do you mean in the long term or in the short term? Because in the short term, yes, because Israel is sort of on top of things and not being attacked. But in the long term, that's a different question. We could very well see a reemergence and an October 7th thing happening again. So, oh, there was a great question from someone from Ukraine. I don't remember if it was a reporter or a member of the parliament. The question was, you said that whoever is not at the table is on the menu. And then he said, but remember in 1994, we were at the table. We gave up our nukes. And now we are on the menu. So we should either just join NATO now, or we should, I guess, restore our nuclear status. Right? We were at the table, and now we're on the menu. What's up with that? Maybe we should just get nukes back. Maybe that's an idea. Maybe Ukraine should just get nukes back. And there was just some wishy-washy answer to that, to be quite honest. Do I have the answer written down? Oh yeah, Ukraine, on a path to stand strong on its own. The real lesson of yes, the real lessons of breaching the Budapest Memorandum is the failure of Russia. Russia has put Russia. Well, I get it's in a way it's true, in a way it's not. Okay, like apparently the biggest lesson of breaching the Budapest Memorandum is that Russia has failed and has pushed the world to do everything that it has claimed to want to prevent. NATO expanding, European Union getting more militarized, etc., etc. Ukraine being on the way to being in the European Union, basically, Russia has pushed sort of everybody into doing the things they wanted to supposedly prevent. But on the other hand, if, for example, US should choose, or rather the GOP should choose to block aid indefinitely, which could potentially cause Ukraine to fall, then the lesson from the breaching of Budapest Memorandum was that everybody should just get nukes and never listen to anybody that says to give them up. That would be the lesson. And the person asking would be absolutely correct to say maybe we should just restore our nuclear status then, if that's how it's going to be, if we're on the menu now. One last thing for tonight, because I've been doing a whole thing. There was one question about Iran as well. When will the West pressure Iran like it's doing with Russia, since Iran is sort of breaking human rights as we speak nonstop? There was a Iranian journalist with a woman who had lost her eyes. One eye was poked out due to the abuses of women, targeting of women. Oh yeah, the answer to the Iran thing was that we have a sanction system. We need a legal ground to sanction. We don't have those legal grounds yet. We are using our instruments, and we need that we need to name the crimes that are being committed. That we cannot just call them, like, for example, human rights violations, but we need to be specific. Those are crimes targeting women specifically, and that politics is not just symbolic action. It's what matters to people. And that we should push for a two-state solution. And it's about the Israel-Palestine thing. And of course, everybody is afraid that the conflict will spill. So I guess that's it for today. I still have tons more of notes that I can get out. Oh, there's a lot okay, maybe I'll go over the Zelensky thing before ending. I'll go over the Zelensky thing before finishing. I'll do the Zelensky thing was very interesting. More Zelensky plus Kamala Harris. An adversary on an imperial quest. And I was really giddy to hear Zelensky say Szanowna Pani to Kamala Harris. A joint phrase that Polish and Ukrainian has, Szanowna Pani. That sounded very nice to my ears. Szanovna pani. I don't know. I don't know why it sounded so. Respected lady, I guess you could translate it as. Respected lady. USA. The USA has helped to unite the world. Since here is 60 billion. What, from the US? What's 70 billion? What are you talking about, Smith? Have I missed? What, has the House of Representatives just today passed the bill and gave $70 billion to Ukraine or something? Or do you mean the 50 billion euro? The Patriot systems are the biggest reasons. Oh, this is actually a really interesting statement that is not. It's a really obvious statement. It's a really obvious thing that people don't think about it very much on a daily basis when discussing the war. The Patriot systems are the biggest resources, the biggest rescuers of lives and of economy. The Patriot systems are the rescuers of economy. Why? Because a good air defense system like the Patriots allow Ukrainian people to live their lives normally. So it allows Ukrainians to participate in the economy. So a good system that shuts down missile strikes allows people to live more or less semi-normally, and that is an economy saver. And of course, a lifesaver, literally. And of course, talk was done by Zelensky about bringing Russia to justice, using frozen assets, probably the generated revenue. I don't know. I honestly don't know. We're about to get into it here. There seems to be big confidence in Zelensky that it will pass. His confidence in the US aid passing worries me a bit personally, and you're gonna learn in a second why I'm a bit alarmed by the well, you'll see. Washington Post question. U.S. Congress freezes aid. U.S. Congress is freezing aid, the GOP. Can Ukraine win without this aid? Is this freezing of aid a betrayal? And now, I have to say, the question is, aid is frozen. Can Ukraine win without the aid? That's first question. Second, is this freezing of aid, does it feel like a betrayal? And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be quite honest. Zelensky did not answer this question. He answered it as if it was a totally different question. I sort of wish he would answer the question and not sort of gave an answer there was an answer to a totally different question, because his answer was we are counting on this, and this answer worries me, by the way. We're counting on this package. We are not looking into any alternatives to this package. If we did look, I can understand the sentiment behind the answer, but it worries me nonetheless. If we were to look into alternatives to this US package, US would not be our strategic ally. And since the US is our strategic ally, we will keep believing in this package and we will not look into other alternatives. We don't have any alternatives to this. To which I'm a bit... That's not good. Well, what if it doesn't go through then? What if the GOP is so adamant to screw over Ukraine that it will do it no matter what, no matter what? And the situation is suddenly pretty dire, considering that Ukraine is not really looking into any alternatives. Any at all. Like, I would expect Ukraine to, like, you always should have an alternative. You never should depend on something so hard, no matter what, no matter how dependable a thing is, you always should have an alternative. It should not just be, no, we're not even looking. We're just, US is our strategic ally and we're not looking into it. I'm worried. I'm simply worried. Like, and the answer to, I will remind you, the question was, can Ukraine win without this aid? And Zelensky said, just this package is not enough to win. This package is the way forward, but it is not the way for us to win. So he did not answer the question of, can Ukraine win without this package? He actually said, we cannot really win with this package alone, which is a totally different answer to a totally different question. Although, I will say that saying we will not win with this package alone sort of implies the answer of, without this package, we're screwed. Because if you cannot win with the package, then without the package, you double cannot win. You double cannot win without the package. So, yeah. Next. This package will be a move. This package is a. This package is the way forward, but it will not give us victory. Okay? Just this package alone is not enough to give us victory. So, of course, without the package, it's all just... Of course. And now the answer to the question, do you think Poland will get involved, Lucy? It depends, right? It depends. It really depends. Like, how could it get involved? Thank you. Like, how can it get involved? It's in NATO. If Poland should send troops, it would be like NATO declaring war on Russia, which, of course, NATO does not want to do. So, Poland definitely cannot get involved aggressively, if that's what you're asking. For Poland to get involved, it would have to get invaded, basically. So, the answer to the question, is this freezing of aid seen as a betrayal? And I can understand the answer that is about to come, sort of. It's not a betrayal, because our strategic partners will not betray us. I believe the support will come. Like, on the one hand, I understand this answer from Zelensky. But on the other hand, when you combine it with we are not looking into any alternatives, and when it's coupled with I believe the support will come, it is not a betrayal because our strategic partners will not betray us. Like, unless there is some real guarantee of aid passing, of this package somehow passing, like there are options, like there are certain options available, of course, to sort of push the aid through, and we're all sort of counting on those options. Like forcing like a, but it is still worrying no matter what that to hear no, they will definitely not betray us, plus we're not even looking into alternatives. Under Trump, I think World War III, at least a European war, may occur. Would it be silly for me to move to Europe in light of possible full-blown war throughout Europe? I want to live in Southwest Germany of Eastern. I think you're gonna be fine there. I think you're gonna be fine in those countries. Like before any war reaches those countries, so you'll be able to live a bit. Don't worry. Russia still has to go through Ukraine because Ukraine is still standing and doing okay for the fact that it's faced with critical shortage of weaponry. Then it has to go through the Baltic states, through Poland, etc. So don't worry. So, and this from Interchannel, a question to Kamala Harris, Congress aid. Why has this been postponed? Is there a plan B? When will the US and Ukraine sign a security deal like the one that it has signed with Germany? Answer, which again makes me worried, in tandem with Zelensky's we're not looking into alternatives, we believe, and then there is Kamala Harris answer to the is there a plan B? Answer being there's only plan A. We must make sure this passes. And I'm like, no plan B. No plan B. I see. No plan B. Okay. No plan B. That does not sound good. No plan B. And Zelensky also answered. Security guarantees, we are negotiating, signing, working on documents to sign with the US. But right now, the main focus is in the Congress and with the aid package. Any sort of mutual security deals can come after the aid package. Didn't the House of Representatives just go into recess after ignoring the Ukraine sort of topic? Even if the faith is well put and eventually the aid does go through, what if the aid is postponed so much that it just misses a certain critical moment and it comes too late? which is not also outside of the realm of possibility. What if the aid passes when so much damage is done that is basically irreversible? What happens then? That's also a possibility. No plan B, no alternatives. And I guess I'll finish it here today, and I'll just continue tomorrow. I'm even gonna do it like this. Red line that I finish discussing the conference. This was one part of the conference that genuinely worried me a bit. Like, unless there are some behind the scenes sort of bulletproof sort of assurances that the aid package will pass and soon, then I'm genuinely worried. We're not looking into alternatives. We are in the US we trust as our strategic ally. And there is no plan B. Well, I guess good night, everybody. On that, a little bit of a less than ideal note. Good night, everybody. It's been 3 hours, 37 cents of stream. You have been all a wonderful audience. Tomorrow will be the third day of the conference, and we still haven't. I still have a lot of notes of yesterday that we can cover. I'm gonna be watching tomorrow probably and taking precious notes, and then discussing or something. So I'll see you tomorrow. Love and solidarity. Heart. We love our non-binary siblings. Boom, boom. Oh yeah, Zelensky also said that we should not be afraid of the prospect of Putin losing the war, and that it's more than possible. That was in the earlier speech. And he invited Trump to the front line. That was something. Okay, good night.